right, so I'm just going to say a few things and then we're going to... to new board, first congratulations. I hope you know what you're getting into. I have submitted all of your names to CVS for your security badges. Speaking of which, old board, our badges are deactivated as of tomorrow.
That's fine. They don't need them back.
Huh?
They don't want them back.
I don't know what to do with them, but it won't work anymore. So new board, I put them in. They're doing a quick check on some things, and then within the next few days, you should be able to go over to the security office of CBS. It's a fairly painless experience. They're just going to take a picture of you, give you a badge. I don't have too much else to say. Thanks everybody for all the fun. I hope you guys elect some good officers. I urge you all in the oncoming board to, if you're electing presidents and whatnot, you might want to look at people who've been on the board already, maybe people who've already been in some kind of position, just because there's a lot of ins and outs of all this that takes a minute to learn. So, Gibson, do you want anything else out of me?
No, I want to say thank you to the outgoing board. I want to appreciate working with everybody. I do hope we continue working together. If anybody has any questions or how we can sort of collaborate in terms of doing a leadership training, we definitely want to incorporate your input. So if anybody has any input, I would really appreciate it. It just kind of helps us continue doing the leadership workshops throughout the city. They're having all the new incoming board members. So anybody's wisdom was definitely helpful in your experience of it. So if I do reach out to you, just hopefully we can collaborate. On that, thank you. I appreciate everybody. And I hope we work with the new board. And so, thank you everybody. I think we're going to start sitting the new board.
Cool.
New board members, we're going to have everybody get a new board member. We're going to do a quick switch around.
Gibson, I'm just going to cover until the secretary is elected and then I'm going to... Just say no.
That's right.
Also, we have temporary signs.
Hello, how are you?
Nice to see you too. Lovely.
We get purple in her hair and stuff left over somewhere. Yeah, I guess.
I'm hovering. I'm just hovering until the new secretary is coming.
Okay.
So
I hope we have one.
as soon as you elect a secretary.
Yeah, we'll see. No one's going to be more surprised than me.
That's right. Yes. So we have quorum. Let me check. So, before I start passing out, can I have everybody's attention? Before we start passing out the folders and election of new officers, if everybody could care to stand up, we're just going to do the naval council oath.
Can we get some sort of microphone or amplification of something? We can't hear anything.
We don't have our electrical guy.
So, as the new board is being administered, we'll be able to address those in future meetings. I apologize, it's going to be an inconvenience, so we'll try to speak up in this meeting. So, new board members, I'm going to have you right hand up and repeat after me. I pledge to represent my neighborhood with dignity.
I pledge to represent my neighborhood with dignity,
integrity, and pride.
integrity, and pride.
I will encourage other points of view,
I will encourage other points of view,
even when they differ from my own.
even when they differ from my own.
I will respect, value, and consider everyone's opinion.
I will respect, value, and consider everyone's opinion.
I will find the good in my neighborhood
I will find the good in my neighborhood
and praise it and promote it.
And
to my neighbors and to neighborhoods throughout the city of Los Angeles.
And to my neighbors.
Let's not laugh. I pledge to do this to the best of my ability.
I pledge to do this to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, welcome to Studio City. So the department is just going to be taking over the election of the president, and once the president is elected amongst board members, the president will take over the meeting to make sure all the other officers are elected. And if I have a motion to open, is there a motion to nominate anybody to run to be president for Studio City? Is there a motion? Claire, can I get a second?
Second.
Claire?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Brian Carroll as president.
Is there another? Is there a second? Is there another nomination for another neighborhood council board member? You can nominate yourself as well.
Oh, okay. I have a motion to nominate Randy, and I don't know your last name.
Freed.
Speak up.
Randy Freed. There's a motion to nominate Randy Freed as the president of Studio City Neighborhood Council. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? Any? Going once? Anybody want to nominate themselves? You can run for president. Anybody? Anybody? Okay. So how we're gonna be voting for these two candidates. We're gonna be raising our hands. And for the first, thank you, Mr. Anthony. Appreciate that. So if anybody wants to raise up the hand for the election of Brian Carroll to be the president of Studio City, please raise your hand.
Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
This is to nominate Brian Carroll as president of the neighborhood council. Tony Thompson. Yes or no?
Are you nominating Brian?
Is this nominated?
Oh, you can speak if you want to for 30 seconds if you want to. Sorry about that.
That's discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to do discussion? Would you like to
I
speak
can-
for 30
I can
seconds?
speak for 30 seconds. So, hi everyone, I'm Brian Carroll. I'm the outgoing vice president of the Studio City Neighborhood Council. I've been on the board for 11 months, and I would just say the last 11 months have really been a joy to work with all of you, both outgoing board members and some returning and hopefully new. This community is very special to me. I think we can do a lot of great things together. I think we can be very ambitious, and we don't have to shy away from the hard stuff. And ultimately, Studio City is great. I love Studio City, and I hope to be your president.
Thank you. Mr. Randy?
Sure, thanks. Hi everyone, first thank you for coming in on a night, taking your time. What I would say is that Studio City neighborhood was unique in that we, as stakeholders, decided to vote out the vast majority of the existing board, which to me suggests that there is an interest and a groundswell for change. So voting for someone with experience, there is certainly merit to that. But perhaps if we go with the stakeholders that wanted change across the board, then we would vote for that change. My interest in is not only working with those that agree with me, but as said in the oath, ultimately that I'm more interested in working with and hearing those that have differing opinions. And so hopefully recognizing that there's space in between that we can find common ground. So, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for that. Apologize for that. By all means, do you want to ask a question?
Well, maybe the group first, or our
Public comment?
Is there any public comment, any questions from the public for the two candidates?
What kind of change are you talking about?
Sorry?
What kind of change are you talking about?
Sure. What kind of change? Basically, in a nutshell, the reason that I decided to run in the first place is to see greater communication. I live in Landale Square, and most of my neighbors didn't even know that there was an election. Didn't feel that what's happening in Studio City, that they really had a voice, or that the existing neighborhood council had been responsive. So some of that first primary change is communicating. Just even seeing how the agenda came together for tonight, I realize there are always challenges and hiccups as there's a transition of power, but it didn't happen, nevertheless, in a timely manner that should have. And so that's the primary, increasing our transparency and our communication. And ultimately making sure that there's improved decorum. Some of the emails and things that I saw, it's a shame, because we ultimately all want to improve our neighborhood. And there's no room for name calling, et cetera, in my opinion. So that's the change.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to ask ask Brian Carroll what he'd like to keep the same and what he'd like to change.
Great. So I think one of the major things that I bring to this is that I'm a civics nerd. And so with 2/3 of the board being almost brand new to the board, with 9 new members and also 3 of them elected within the last year, people have really great ideas and really big ideas, but they don't know the process of how to get through stuff. So I want to be able to facilitate that first. So I do want to work all together in terms of change. I feel like we don't really tackle anything major. We're comfortable finding our little nook, living there, and not really addressing we have a homeless crisis that's going on. There are 2 sides to that issue. I feel like the one side is being underserved with which Eric Previn likes to say, the more pitchforky crowd of things. I think Studio City is a compassionate neighborhood. I want to move us into that direction. And the things I want to stay the same is that we are a very influential neighborhood council. And I'd like to keep us that way.
Yes, sorry, he had his hand. Yes, Richard.
Yeah, Richard Adams. Being on the council is hard work. Being president is excruciatingly hard work. I know because I lived with the president for 2 years. Before you take this job, do you really understand what the job entails? All the work you have to do, all the coordination you have to do, all the extra meetings you have to go to, and will you commit to work that hard? Or will you be like some other people I've seen as president who go, well, this is just too much. They do the bare minimum and turf everything out to other people. Because that's not leadership, that's not president, and that will not help the SCNC do its job.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Garcia. I live in Colfax Meadows. You say pitchfork mentality, but if you are elected as president, what are you going to do regards to the homeless situation, with the drug paraphernalia, with the violence that's increased in this neighborhood? What are 3 of your ways of making it better here in Studio City?
Well, one of the new things that we just got are 2 new chairs. One was a homelessness committee chair and one was a public safety chair. I see those 2 committees and those 2 mentalities as being the opposites that we need to balance. I think the 2 chairs that just took over those committees are committed to working with each other to find out a balance between public safety and the dignity of those who are suffering homelessness. And I'd like to continue to keep that balance. I'd like to facilitate that balance.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. So I think the answer, I think it's a real problem, and I think it's citywide. Every neighborhood council is dealing with the challenges that homelessness presents, the criminal element that is in that, as well as real issues. Sitting with Gibson yesterday, and talking about some of the statistics, there are obviously some things that are beyond our neighborhood council. So I want to just first put that out there. What we have is our ability to organize. And signatures and votes. So one idea is to improve our voice and our relationship with City Hall. I think it can always be better. 2 is to recognize for stakeholders that we need to streamline communications. Multiple jurisdictions play the blame game, right? 311 it, but then the case gets closed, then it's not resolved. Then we'll call LAPD, and LAPD will say, well, if it's a freeway or freeway embankment, they'll say, it's not our problem, call Caltrans. And then Caltrans will say, call CHP because we're not a law enforcement body. As a stakeholder, people that are working hard, raising our families, we don't have the time or interest to do the runaround. So idea number 2 is to find a way to streamline who do we call when there's an issue for wherever it is, right? And that's something that actually Gibson and I talked about yesterday. And 3, I would say, 3 is thinking about what are sensible ways that we as a neighborhood can help the situation, but not enable it, if that makes sense. And there is a balance to that, which I think Brian mentioned. But moreover, really the 3rd idea, or in any other idea, I think I would throw it back to you about what do you think? I think leadership requires listening, and I think that perhaps there's a lot of stakeholders that don't feel fully heard.
I didn't even answer my question, which basically, who knows how much work it is and when are they going to do it? Are they able to?
Is there?
We need to call.
Do you want to do that?
Sure, I would just be quick and say that before I was even elected, and the minute I moved with my family from the 13th district and moved here into this district because there was an encampment on an embankment. Before I was even elected, before I even decided to do this, I was meeting with Jessica Folgate in Krikorian's office. I was talking with Sean Smith and other members of the LAPD because of my own professional work, and trying to see who I can talk to. So the short answer is yes. And while I may not have the experience specifically to the neighborhood council, I would say I have the energy and interest to make my home better for my family, and in turn listen to everyone to make our home better for everyone.
So we're gonna take 2 more and then we're gonna close public comment. Yes, we have the the lady in the back. Yes, ma'am.
So, don't you disband all the committees and then start from scratch with a new board?
Yes.
Yes, so that's what the new board is doing today.
Okay, so you don't have any committees yet, but that's the plan?
So once a new board is elected and as you look at the agenda, there will be establishment of committee chairs. And then the committees will begin functioning.
And next, I know I am a stakeholder, but this gentleman over here would be an amazing president because he knows everything that's going on in the city.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I was just curious, Mr. Freed, how did you find out about the neighborhood council?
Sure. So I first found out from the first way that I found out about the neighborhood council was actually in speaking with Jessica Folgate.
And now we're going to close the public comment. Thank you everybody for your questions. We're going to do a call. We're going to call out a roll call.
Can't we all ask questions? The board?
Did you have questions for either candidate?
Well, would you like to ask a question? Or?
I do.
We're the ones that are voting.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, Brian, since you're continuing on, it seems like there needs to be some drastic changes, especially with the homelessness committee. And I know that they wanted to get on the agenda, but for whatever reason that wasn't possible. So my concern is with you stepping into the presidency, are we going to be able to run things like the way we should and get things back in order and really give the attention to the committees that need that attention?
Yeah, I think so, without knowing what you're specifically referring to. Yeah, they wanted to get stuff on the agenda, but they were within the 72-hour mark. And me, as much as I am a fighter for the homelessness committee, I'm also a big fan of procedure and civics and the rules that we abide by here. So if that's what you're referring to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'd like to ask a question, but maybe you'd like to answer your question.
Yeah.
Randy, do you want to answer Tony's question?
Well, it's harder for me to speak to simply because the lack of regular order, if you will, that Tony is referring to, because I wasn't here, I can't speak to that. What I can say that obviously homelessness is top of mind for everyone, and therefore it should be top of mind for us overall as a neighborhood council. And yes, absolutely. Whether my understanding is it has been an ad hoc committee, but there is interest to move that to a standing committee. I also know that a number of neighborhood councils have done that. So then, yes, I would absolutely. It deserves the attention that our stakeholders think it demands.
Okay, we're going to take one more question. Yes, sir.
I think the nature of that question was more about procedure and order than anything. We serve these people.
Right.
And there are rules in place that ensure that they see what is going on here, because we are their body, not our individual body. So how, in other words, what's your philosophy in terms of and both of you guys, because you're both in terms of putting the public's interest, where do you sit on putting the public's interest in related to expediency of and efficiency of getting things accomplished?
I think that there are times we need to slow down. There's times when we have to deal with a crisis. And I think there's mechanisms and procedure in place to handle both when they need to happen. As president, my job is not to just rush through everything that I believe is right for this town, but getting more involvement in the city. Once we get more involvement and more outreach into the community and the stakeholders, they're going to be able to, we're going to win everything. Because they're going to be, even if it's something that I don't necessarily agree with, just by following the procedures and slowing it down a little bit, it's going to force the debate. And maybe I come around and maybe I don't. Maybe I find a better way to handle it procedurally, to make everyone satisfied with the results. But no, I'm a big fan of procedure, and even when things have to go fast, I think it should still be done through a process and a procedure process.
Your question was really about how much voice do you give to the stakeholders, is what I hear. And I would say that the amount of, yes, procedure is required, right? That's how we run, that we have rules. Nevertheless, I think that if a promise is made that something is going to be addressed, then it's incumbent on, things do happen, but it's incumbent on those that are given that authority or that leadership role to ensure that it's done. I would simply say, I would just equate it to something simple about being on time to a meeting. Eric Garcetti is never late. He prides himself on always being on time, and he runs around to many, at least my experience with him in different capacities, he's never late. He places a high priority, and that's simply because he makes a commitment to the constituents.
You have the last question, and then we're gonna.
Yeah, can I ask it's just a quick question. Oh, sorry. Just because I think there's some immediate consequences behind it. So we have a bunch of committees that we're appointing chairs to, and none of us really know when these committees meet. None of us know how they're trained. And although I will say communication with Empower LA has been kind of unhelpful at this moment, I think we really need to know how our future president is going to jump on this and train us up in a very short time. Because I think all of us share the same ambition, but none of us know what direction we will go in and how any of this works. It just seems so out of place to be electing all these committee chairs now without any idea of what the next month's gonna look like. So how would this?
So right now you're electing officers, and then the committee chair is off as well.
Yeah, but I'm asking Brian, how will he handle this very pressing hole that we have?
Yeah, we need chairs, and most of the board is new, but excited. And Section 7 of the operating procedures say that one of the first things to do after this meeting is to schedule an orientation with just the committee chairs, with the president, and go over that kind of procedure and just make sure no one's afraid of the process and no one's lost. So that's my first thing to do. I think choosing the chairs who are passionate to handle this work, regardless, you can always train someone, about the procedure.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that there is training.
Yeah, there's absolutely training. I'm committed to it.
Because there's definitely a disconnect with Empower LA. I think a lot of us have reached out to you guys and had very delayed responses. So
I think if I may interject, what happens is once the new board is elected and we've been able to get the new board up and running, after tonight you'll be able to see how communication does change once you go from elected.
No, that's great.
to the
Just the final, just know that if elected president, I'm going to be basically on call to help any committee chair and get what they need to get.
No, I think that's fantastic.
And so we're going to close.
Can Alex say what he wanted to say? Because he's been waiting a
Yeah,
while.
sorry, I was trying to get everyone in. I guess getting back to, I do agree that we have a learning curve, and you would definitely be the person that can help us avoid a big one. My question is to both of you, and it'll be brief, but maybe the stakeholders want to hear it. Excuse me. We're obviously in a path. Two big things are happening in the city in the next year, probably. It'll be the Harvard Westlake development of Weddington and its impact on that area, as well as the homeless situation, how the city of Los Angeles has been handling it over the past 2 years. Do either one of you feel that the way the city has handled the homeless crisis up to this point has been on target, or do you believe there's room for diverging from that and trying out new ideas? Secondly, about the Harvard Westlake project, have you guys thought about that, and how will that impact the city of, our stakeholders? That's kind of a question on both of them.
Sure. Okay, I'll start with the not so easy one first. Homelessness. I think two things are happening. I think one, personally, I don't think that the city is doing as good as I would like as a resident, as a homeowner. I would also say that I believe there is a lot of misinformation. I think that part of the reason that so many people feel failed by the city is because of a lack of communication and managing expectations. I can expand, but so that would be the short answer. But I do think there is room for perhaps other alternatives. I think that, but I think again, as I said, in my opening, I think homelessness is also something that is citywide, and real change will come from City Hall and all of the council districts coming together in a far more impactful and meaningful way with dollars and resources that we as a neighborhood council don't have. As it relates to Harvard Westlake, that is going to have a lot of change. And honestly, I'm not. I would defer to hearing what the stakeholders think about that change. I've lived in Studio City for a year. I've heard anecdotally some info, but for me personally, being honest, I would want to hear more from people that have been on the board like yourself and some stakeholders.
Thank you. So now we're going to close.
Can I answer?
Discussion. Okay,
Sorry, yeah, I can answer it quick. So to answer the homelessness questions, no, we're not on target. And the fact that the numbers just came out for the new count, and then the city comes out with like, well, we built 10 houses for people. It's not. We don't have the resources and funding in Studio City, but ideas are free. So we can put together the plans and we can come up with alternate plans and pitch them to the city. That's why we exist as a board. So I would like to work with that, because whether someone's on the more public safety angle of this or whether someone's on the compassionate side of this, we all don't like the fact that homeless people exist. We just differ on the tactics. Like, there is a crisis here, and our society and our city has failed these people, regardless of how you believe that we got to this. So we need to address that. In terms of the Harvard Westlake thing, it affects me directly because I do believe I live within 500 feet of it. And so there's an ethics thing that I can't really weigh in on that, but that just means that I have to listen more and bring in more ideas, because it's going to have to voice on my behalf.
Thank you.
On that note, I hope I'm not cutting anybody else. We're going to do a roll call for both candidates.
So, wait, Gibson, my question to you is, do you want each person to say whether or not they want Brian or Randall, or do you want a yes or no on Brian and a yes or no on Randall? They could then vote for both.
Probably not,
You could just do either one.
Okay, so I'm gonna call your name once, and when I call your name, tell me whether you're voting for Brian or for Randall, okay? All right, Tony.
Randall.
Adam Summer.
Brian?
Rick Rosner.
Brian.
Raduca Kaplan.
Randall.
Randall Freed.
Randall.
Claire Correct.
Brian.
Jesse Porter.
Brian.
Brian Carroll.
Brian.
Joseph, did you show up? Lisa.
Brian.
Yanni, did you show up?
I'm actually right here. I didn't know what to do.
Yanni, come and join us.
Where's the chair there?
There's a seat right here for you.
I wasn't sure.
Does he have to be sworn in?
We're just going to start functioning with the board.
Yanni, are you voting? Who are you voting for?
I don't think I'm educated enough to make a decision. on that.
Abstain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael?
Randall.
Alex?
Brian?
Richard Niederberg?
Brian?
Alexa?
Randall.
Okay, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes for Randall, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 votes for Brian, and 1 abstain. Brian is
Choose a nomination. Is there a motion on the floor to officially elect Brian Carroll as the president of the Studio City Neighborhood Council? Claire, can I get
I'd like to make a motion to formally elect Brian Carroll as our neighborhood council president.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by
Rick.
Great.
Congratulations. Thank you.
right here, Brian. We're from the
All right, so next we gotta go. All right. Thank you to Studio City Neighborhood Council. Thank you to the stakeholders and residents of Studio City. So let's move on forward. So we have to elect more officers, vice president. So I'm looking for nominations for vice president.
I nominate Randall Freed.
Nice then.
Any other?
I'll second it.
Great.
I actually need a paper too. I'm gonna share it.
And I just want to, just because, listen, I have a complete hatred towards an uncontested election, I'm sure everyone understands. I'd like to nominate Adam Summer as well.
I'll second.
Anyone else? So we just move on? Is there?
Are we going to go through the discussion process again? I think I want
We second Adam?
Yeah, we got to check it out. All right, if there's no strong objections to moving forward on that vote, I just prefer to take it unless just a brief statement if.
No, I'm definitely willing to step up. I have the time and ambition and certainly the ability, but I'm pretty encouraged by Randall, so I would definitely pass the hat to him.
We just do a thank you vote for this.
Well, is he accepting the nomination?
Yes.
Randall.
Adam?
Oh, Adam.
Are you accepting the nomination?
I mean, if he's willing to step up,
Yeah, I'll step up.
Great.
So without objection?
Yeah, without objection,
Randall.
we make Randall.
Very quick public comment, this is more of an observation. I would strongly urge the president and the vice president to work together so that the vice president is fully briefed in and aware of how the process works. So if you have to go away for a meeting or any other reason, or a year or two from now, you're tired of being president, he's fully trained and he can step in.
Yes.
That's based on experience.
Heartbeat away. So yeah, without objection, Randall Reed's our vice president. Next up is the treasurer. Do we have any nominations to be treasurer? And again, if you don't know what treasurer is, we can train up on this as well.
Everyone needs to be trained.
Everyone's going to be trained. Do not be afraid of the big ideas and the hard work. Do we have any nominations for treasurer?
I'd like to nominate Rick Rosner as treasurer.
Do you accept the nomination? Anyone else? Wants to be nominated? Nominate yourself. Then without objection, you do accept, right?
Yeah.
Great. Without objection, I move to make Rick Rosner treasurer.
Congratulations.
Next up on the docket, we have recording secretary, which we have.
It's a fabulous job.
It's a fabulous job. Someone again who can train. That'd be great. Do we have any nominations for recording secretary?
I nominate Nancy.
Yeah, I mean,
I am not a member of the board, but thank you.
But
Do you have to
be secretary, can't
No.
you?
Nope.
You have to be an elected.
Because I am actually very, very clear on the bylaws, no.
I'd like to nominate Tony.
Second.
Does Tony accept the nomination?
Yes.
Great. Do we have any other nominations?
Oh.
Then without objection, Tony is our new recording secretary. Next, we have the corresponding secretary. Do we have any?
Can I nominate Adam Summer to be corresponding secretary?
I would defer. I mean, there's definitely other things that I'm very excited to do on the board. When we get to committees, I'll talk about those. But this is not somewhere where I would excel.
Can I nominate someone else?
Yeah.
What is the role?
Can I nominate Alexis Steinberg?
It's easy.
Alexis Steinberg as corresponding secretary? Do we have a second?
I second.
And an acceptance? Great. Anyone else? Then without objection, Alexis Steinberg is corresponding secretary. Appointment of the secondary signer to treasurer. Is this usually? Yeah. Yeah.
Claire, do you want to be? Or I nominate Claire.
I'm sorry, but I will respectfully decline that nomination.
I nominated Richard Dean for the
This
department.
is not an election.
This is an appointment. Without objection, with Mr. Niederberg, I'd like to appoint you as the second signer.
Thank you.
Great. Next, we are moving on to reestablish the committees and any other ad hoc committees, as well as the committee chairs. So, yeah. So first up, we have budget.
You don't have to be on the board to be a committee chair,
You do
right?
not, no. The bylaws do state that there should be one board member on each committee, but it's not shall, it is should. So, just as a legal thing. I'm gonna, this is not nomination, I just appoint this.
This is appointments.
Yeah. Unless there is significant objection, or if anyone wants to throw their hat in the ring for this, I'm going to go ahead and appoint Patrick Lewis as our budget chair. Anyone? Great. You accept that?
Yes, for sure, thank you.
Bylaws and procedures. Does anyone have any interest in being the chair of bylaws, which may actually be of some importance coming up in the next year, based on everything we just went through in the last year?
I've done it before, I can do it again.
What about Nancy?
Nancy. Yes.
I'm just trying to keep you on board. Or with us.
If you actually want to follow the bylaws and procedures and Robert's rules.
Do I not know it?
I've been in situations where the president doesn't.
Not me.
I encourage this.
Yeah.
Wait, what was discussed just then?
I'll be transparent about it. She wants to make sure that I'm going to follow the bylaws and procedures that, are actually under the jurisdiction of
Well, you
the
just became president based on your procedural push, so.
Yeah, but you gotta like.
We gotta get it from his eyeballs to my eyeballs. So
Don't worry
that I
about
can,
it. In about 20 minutes, I'm going to impress her with procedural nonsense.
I think Alexa should do it too. Alexa, head of bylaws.
Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and appoint Nancy as our bylaws chair. Next up is crime and safety, which we call public safety, and of course I would just like to reappoint Michael Piscitelli as our public safety. And I do want to say, as in the 3 months, 2 months,
3, 4, something like that.
has done an amazing job in just making that committee be a really great pillar of Studio City. So thank you very much, and welcome back. Cultural affairs, I think Mr. Niederberg is the most experienced person in the room for that. Great.
Government affairs.
Government affairs, I think, again, without objection, I'd like to say Eric Previn, if you'd like to re-chair. Sure. Government affairs.
What if it's
Not this one, no. This chairs I move to appoint. What's that?
And I would really like to get involved with the government affairs. I've spoken at city council many, many times.
Chair chooses though.
Yeah.
And, I would really like to take a very active role in that.
Well, this is Eric Previn. He's our new once and future chair. There's an open chair, please. All right, land use. Very contentious land use committee. Very big responsibility in the town of Studio City. Who has an interest in being a land use? I have no preconceived notions of who should be chair of land use. So it's really whoever thinks they can do a good job and do the work.
Would you take recommendations from out here?
I would.
So,
I would fully recommend Jesse Porter as the head of land use. I think you do a great job.
Does anyone have any other recommendations? I'm accepting recommendations for this one. Is Alexa what? Chair of committee or?
So land use is a lot of work.
It is.
Just leave it that way.
I'm going to respectfully decline, but thank you very
Great.
much.
And then with that, then I'm going to appoint Jesse Porter.
Lisa Karachian. She's been on land use for quite a while.
Are you? Wait. Are you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Land use cannot be a learning curve this year with the.
No, that's a good point. I thought you were referring just to the job. Are you interested in chairing land use?
She will do it.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to circle back to land use. Let's get the other two, and then think about it. And you guys can fight.
Any stakeholder or board member has a question about the land use, because I definitely know there's some challenges about it.
Yeah.
I'd be more than glad to sit down with you in a one-on-one so we can just kind of walk over the requirements of being a land use chair and sort of how you work with the planning department to get notifications to future projects So I can definitely facilitate and help you get through the huddle, because it's definitely a learning curve. So please don't be scared of being part of the land use. I think it's a really important committee to be part of it, and I'm here to help at any time.
All right, that said, I'm going to move on to Outreach Committee. Yeah, I think we all want Adam Summer as Outreach Chair, if you'll accept.
I will accept.
Great. And then before we circle back, well, I got a couple more, but Transportation.
Barry.
I think it's going to be fair. Is he here to accept? No. Can he accept?
He accepts.
I'm going to.
Brian.
Yeah.
Barry isn't here, but I've been on the land use. I'm actually vice chair of the current, transportation.
Yeah.
I did the
same
vice chair of
thing.
Transportation for 9 years. Barry's been like 11 years, so I know he wants to do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that Barry told an hour ago to me, he'll
Great.
he'll do it.
Then I will appoint Barry as our Transportation Chair. And then I'm just going to there's 2 ad hocs we have to reestablish tonight. The ad hoc committee on homelessness, which I'd like to reappoint Andrew Silver as our chair, who's also doing an amazing job.
Yes.
As I said before, the work that those 2 are doing together has been fantastic. And as a surprise to me, as my committee, the Sustainability Committee, ended up being an ad hoc this whole time. So I'm going to reestablish the Sustainability Committee, and at least for now, I'm going to appoint myself as the chair again. We can clap. And then circling back to, what's that? Aren't you the Charlie? Yeah. Great, and then land use.
Sure.
Yes. Great.
I will
That's
be.
Great. Yeah, has anyone read the May minutes, the May meeting minutes? Has this board read it? I like the little Jiminy Great.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, without objection, I move to accept the meeting minutes from last May. And then as well, without objection, I'd like to also accept the monthly expenditure report for May 2019.
My second?
You don't do it. Oh, yeah.
Great, accepted. And with that, public comment. Let's start. Vanessa Carr.
Thanks for putting me first, guys.
Good evening, new board. Also, congratulations. Congratulations to all of you. This is exciting. My name is Vanessa Carr. I'm Assembly Member, Adrin Nazarian, Studio City Field Representative, so you guys will be seeing a lot of me. But also want to say thank you to the old board for your service. It was such a pleasure working with you. I'm still a phone call away. Call me, email me. I'm around. Just very quick updates. The Assembly Member is hosting a dog adoption fair next month on July 13th at Alamut and Toluca Lake. So I left some flyers on the side over there. So if you guys are interested in coming, be lots of cute little dogs. And they all need homes. So please come. And then just a quick update on the Caltrans construction on Sarah Street. They're going to be doing construction from June 17th to June 21st and June 24th to June 28th. I'm happy that there's some specific areas that they'll be working on. So there'll be some trucks and some noise. So I'm happy to send these specific areas to the new board once I get all your contact information, because there's a spreadsheet for this. So you can send it out to the community and you guys can share it with the rest of the stakeholders. But yeah, if you have any questions or any issues on state-related issues, obviously the most common ones are homelessness on the freeways. On-ramps, off-ramps are us, so any issues with Caltrans, I'm your person. Happy to leave you my business card so you guys can reach me at any time. I'm pretty quick with responding, so yeah. So nice to meet you all. And congratulations, Brian. Any questions for me?
You said you're gonna leave business cards.
Yes.
And empowerla.org has all of our emails.
Oh, yes. Did I?
As a link.
Okay, perfect.
I can send you those because I just went through and copied them.
Okay, awesome.
One by one.
Hi.
Hi.
I figured I'd get my hands on
Yes.
you now. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
So why do all the off-ramps and on-ramps with Adrian's district look horrible, and like all
Oh,
the
do
on-ramp
they?
and off-ramps with other Caltrans look nice, like outside of like the city of LA?
Well, we're in Caltrans District 7, so we are, District 7 includes Santa Barbara, everywhere to Santa Barbara to the OC. So it's
So I guess I would just say scope.
it's a pretty big geographic area that we are also in.
But
So
does
that,
Caltrans handle only off-ramp cleanup and maintenance?
Mhm.
So then why are our off-ramps horrible, and like when we travel south, they look nice?
I think it just has to do with the shortage of Caltrans maintenance workers.
So
There's
they don't
not.
wanna do it here?
No, there's just not a lot because they cover such a large geographic area. Again, everything from Santa Barbara County as well and Ventura County. That's a huge
Right, but
area that they have to cover. I mean, I understand. I'm happy to put those in requests. I put them in pretty quick.
Simple question.
I think it has to do with, I mean, I know a couple months ago I was able to bring the Caltrans team out here.
They look terrible, the off-ramps.
Yeah.
Sherman Way, mattresses.
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue everywhere in the Los Angeles County, so it's not just Studio City, it's throughout our entire district. Caltrans is doing its best, it's just the amount of service requests that come in and the amount of workers that they have to actually go out into those areas and clean it up, it's not enough.
So they don't have it here, but they have it other places.
Not necessarily, I just don't think homelessness is as big as an issue in other counties as it is in maybe
Not
LA.
homeless, just cleanliness.
Like the trash?
Yeah. Sorry if it's a long question, guys.
No, I mean, I get it. I've done my fair share of site visits on those areas too, and there's issues with trash on those areas as well. Yeah.
Do we know how does Caltrans determine where they're going to put their attention? What is the criteria?
It's so they prioritize depending on whether it's a safety issue, whether if there's like people living on those areas. So homelessness, they have to be very careful. Same thing with the City of LA's response to homeless encampments on city property. Caltrans has to follow the same position, so they have to give the encampments notice. They have to give them 72-hour notice before they can come in and clean it up. And there's basically no rules saying that they can't come back, and that's the issue. They do come back, and they come back often.
I guess what I'm asking is, what's the criteria? In other words, why does one area say get addressed before another offering? How does Caltrans? Is it like the number of people who call about it? Is it
It helps when you contact our office because we contact them and they prioritize it a little bit more because our eyes are on it as well. The assembly members' eyes are on it, so that helps. But I think they prioritize areas the ones that they don't prioritize are areas that they've already addressed. So it takes like 6 to 8 weeks for them to address an area. So if they've already addressed it, they're not going to go back anytime soon.
So even landscaping, weed cutting, all that stuff.
Landscaping is not a priority to them. That's the issue.
But it is another off-ramps.
Yeah, no, landscaping is not a priority for Caltrans. When it comes to maintenance issues, it's like irrigation issues or potholes. It's landscaping and beautification is like last on the list.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding your comment correctly. In terms of frequency of cleaning, at any off-ramp at any given time is 6 to 8 weeks?
6 to 8 weeks, yeah. And if it's already been addressed previously, it's going to be at the bottom of the list again.
Yes, I often go through that.
Yeah.
Tahunga is often one
Right.
of them. I call every other week.
Yeah.
I get motion. It's very discouraging.
No, we definitely understand. It's frustrating, and we're trying to. And the Caltrans yard that addresses Studio City, in particular, they don't have very many maintenance workers. I think they have like 6, and they cover everything in Studio City, Toluca Lake, North Hollywood. So it's a lot of areas that they have to cover from that just one Caltrans yard. But again, our office is always available. You let me know, I let our Caltrans rep know, and it's on their radar, and it's on my radar, and I bother them a lot, I would say.
So one, let's go because I'm hearing two different things. One is that the frequency is 6 to 8 weeks regardless, so whether they've cleaned, if they've cleaned it, whether we call or not, but you're also at the same time saying if we contact your office, or rather if stakeholders contact your office, then we're going to keep bugging them, it'll get taken care of. So respectfully, which is it?
No, I get it. It's confusing. I mean, I get the answer 6 to 8 weeks as well. Don't get me wrong. It's just a matter of me knowing about it so I can let them know, hey, it's been 6 to 8 weeks. What's going on? Why is because a lot of times they're not on schedule. Like we'll say 6 to 8 weeks, but they'll miss it a lot of times. So having us on board and us knowing about it will help them keep on schedule as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Brief comment for those who maybe missed last month's meeting. It was a exhaustive Caltrans presentation, I thought.
Yeah.
So maybe we have that on our website, which is at YouTube.
Yeah.
Studio City YouTube, and you could, for
Yeah.
those who want to go deeper into the way. So
Yeah.
it was actually, I thought it was impressive.
No, yeah, our office was able to bring in 7 representatives from Caltrans who do engineering, who do maintenance, who do public information. So, I mean, we're happy to organize that again. And Allison Queen is the public information officer at Caltrans, who's been incredibly responsive to our office about all the concerns in Studio City, which has been really great because she's been on top of it. She's the one who sent me the schedule about the construction project on Sarah Street so that I could send it to her.
I'll email you, but
Yeah.
you just ask her a simple question. Caltrans, right? CAL. Why does our off-ramps look like living hell and Beach Boulevard off-ramp is beautifully manicured with little, succulents and nice flowers flowering, and I think there's even dolphins dancing or something, but why do we look like living hell here? And it's nice over there. Is it Adrian's fault? Is he not communicating effectively?
I wouldn't say it was his fault, but I would say I think so. A lot of those areas too. I don't know if you know. There's an off ramp in Toluca Lake that the Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council actually purchased to do the maintenance so that's possible too. If you guys are interested in beautification projects on some of your on ramps, you guys can purchase it too. That's what Toluca Lake decided to do. So that's something that our office can work on as well if you're interested in doing that in some of the more troubled areas on the on-ramps and off-ramps. So we've done it before, so we can do it again.
Would you be the contact person for that?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, guys.
I'd like the president to declare the youth office seat to be open and to solicit applications.
Good idea. The youth office is vacant, and I will be accepting nominations to it. Is anyone here a member of the youth? Would like to be appointed. Failing that, I will make a notice about it, and we'll try to get someone filled it by next meeting. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Can you make another announcement? If anybody wants to serve on any of the committees, to contact the chairs.
Yeah, I can do that. If anyone would like to serve on any of the committees, please contact the chairs of those committees that you'd like to be on. They're the ones who handle their own members. Next public comment from Richard Adams.
Wait, actually, where do you find that? When you say that, contact the chairs, where will they be listed? Will they be posted?
Oh yeah, they'll be all on the website, but also they're here tonight. Most of them anyway.
The SCNC
That was a
website.
lot of nominations very quickly.
It was, yeah. It may take a few days to get all the information updated on the web page, but I can work to try to do it as quickly as possible so that it's
StudioCityNC.org if I'm correct.
And failing that, just I can give you my email as well, and I can move you to the right people. That's a good answer.
Nice knee. I'll try to use my inside Army voice so everybody can hear me. I heard a lot of nice comments about we need input from the community, we need voices, we need to hear, we need to listen. That's good because that's what the job of this board is to do, is to listen, not stifle conversation. And I'd like to tell everybody in front of me and behind me, the way you get the conversation rolling is through your committees. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where the real input comes from. And we need strong committee chairs with strong committees that hold meetings on things that the public is interested in. Things like Harvard Westlake, you may want to create a ad hoc committee with a little land use and a little GAC and a little this and a little that, whatever is appropriate, so that it can more directly address, and that can have all sorts of people from the immediate neighborhood. And when we have meetings on really divisive, high turnout, in general, I would hope that this board would look to work with CBS and start scheduling meetings someplace a little closer to the parking structure. So both the people that are normally able and those of us that are crippled have an easier time getting to the meeting, which will also increase your turnout here, because frankly, even with good legs, walking from MPR3 to here is not always fun, whether it's really hot in the summer or wet and cold in the winter. And that will also increase your attendance. But the problem, you have to have, government affairs has to address all the really important laws and stuff that the city council is doing, the county's doing, and the state is doing, and not just focus on vanity projects. Land use needs to hold meetings and hearings and weigh in on projects on the boulevard, up on Mulholland and everything else. You know, you have to be proactive. You have to bring out things the public wants to talk about. I mean, if they don't want it, if it's not that interesting to them, they won't come to the committees, and they sure as hell won't come to the board meeting, and then people will complain, well, I didn't even know you had a board. It's a vicious circle, and I've been seeing this for, 15 years now? So, heard a lot of good things. I've got lots of experience and lots of energy. If anybody needs my help and wants, suggestions or additional viewpoints, Brian will tell you I've always got one or two.
All right, next is Bill Haller.
Come on up. Mr. Chair, point of privilege.
Yeah.
May I first introduce myself and greet the board properly before my 1 minute starts?
Sure.
Okay. And is it also appropriate that I stand here just so I can project to the audience?
I suppose. I'm a little scared.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thank you. Thanks so much. Well, Mr. Chair and honorable board members, greetings. My name is Bill Haller. I am the founding president of Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council 15 years ago. I also went on to serve for several years as the state chair for Sierra Club California Air Quality Committee. And I represented 150,000 voters on environmental issues throughout the state for several years, and we never lost a priority bill. I also served 15, 16 years ago at the behest of Tony Cardenas on the VNOC committee, the original one, which has to do with my point today, and my 1 minute starts now. It's about credibility and accountability. Nazarian and the River Project, a nonprofit here, secured $150,000 in Studio City Greenway funds from the state of California. That money was signed off by the state and sent to the city of Los Angeles, where council member and budget committee member Krikorian appropriated as for himself. That money, $150,000, dog and pony, it never got to the River Project for the Greenway. The money is then moved over to Rec and Parks or something like that. It still never gets to the River Project. The greater citywide accountability and transparency are why we have neighborhood councils right now. It's about transparency. It's about holding our electeds accountable. You cannot take state funds and then go, oh, this looks good, and then put it over here for your own purposes or your greater good. It was dedicated for a single purpose, and something that I worked on 15 years ago. And environmentally, how do you end up looking if everything comes down to, well, we don't really care what Krikorian does with statewide funds. When does it ever show up again for you, and what nonprofit is ever going to say, yeah, we'll help you out? No. All I'm asking is that you agendize this issue for your next issue. Dig in deep, get down to the basis of this. It's between Nazarian, Krikorian, and the mayor's office. All I can tell you is that there's $150,000 that was promised, earmarked by the state, that did not go to the River Project for Studio City Greenway. Thank you for your time.
All right, next up we have
Raise your hands.
Patty Kirby.
I'm going to also stand over here so everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know, most of you know me, but got my North Hollywood Community Police Advisory Board hat on today. We have been asked by Captain Graham, who has now been promoted to commander, and he will be going to the city for in charge of homelessness. So that's an important thing for all of us to know. I don't know if you know who Don Graham was, but he was our captain for 2.5 years, and he did a fabulous job. We will be having a new captain coming in next week. And what they have asked us to do with the Community Police Advisory Board, I don't know, we're the conduit between the community and the police, and back information from the police back to the community. So, so I have so what I want to do each month is maybe take 2 minutes to give a tip from the captain to the community, and also ask people to fill out cards of any questions that they might have for the captain. It'll be a new captain, but I'm sure he will continue on the progress. So that's it. I just would like to be on the agenda every
Can you email me just to
for 2 minutes.
remind me of that?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so I'll have some cards in the back. If you want to ask the captain or Hollywood Police anything, I will take it back on our meetings. Our board meets once a month with the captain. We're vetted. We have assignments and committees, which I won't go into now. So, thank you.
Next up, we have Melanie Winter.
They started a trend.
Yeah, this is a new
thing.
Someone asked me about change, that kind of change we're moving forward and what we're keeping the same.
There you go. Right. So, hi, congratulations, everybody. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm Melanie Winter. I'm the founder and director of a nonprofit organization called the River Project. I live in Studio City. The River Project is based in Studio City. We've been here for 20 years. We designed and implemented the Valley Heart Greenway here between Radford and Laurel. And we were on the oversight committee for the stretch the city built between Laurel and Wixit. We've worked with a number of community organizations here over the last, off and on for 10 years, to try to get funding from the council office and the city to address many of the issues that continue to compound on the Studio City Greenway that the city built. A lot of those issues are due to things that the VNOC provided comments on that were ignored. So some design issues, some maintenance issues have contributed to the ongoing problems. So we worked collectively with organizations to try to find any money we could. We applied for the LA 2050 grant, if you all know what that is. We came this close to getting it. When we didn't get that, Assemblymember Nazarian last year did a line item budget for us to do this stretch of Greenway. And many of you may have received a letter from his office articulating what his desire for that was, and it's very clear that the River Project is going to work with all the community organizations to address the numerous issues there at the Greenway, from the unhoused to access issues and public safety and drainage and habitat and the management. And the intent was to work in partnership with Rec and Parks, the part-time staff that are assigned there, as well as the Homeless Authority. Wendy Girl had signed on as a partner, committing resources to it, as had Rec and Parks. We were surprised to find that after months of sort of difficult communication with the city on transferring that funding over, that it was going to be handled by the mayor's office and the council office, and we would not play a role. We're upset because we love to do projects in collaboration with communities. We worked with the homeowners and the school students over here at the original Valley Heart Greenway. That builds a better project. We all know what the issues are there. We definitely don't want to just do a construction project that's going to repeat the same problems, that's going to cause even more issues with the unhoused. We want to do it holistically and together. So we would love if the neighborhood council and the various committees that are relevant, the Sustainability Committee, the Public Safety Committee, the Committee on Homelessness, could all collaborate with us through this process as we do this project. We have the expertise. One of the things we were going to do was to teach Rec and Parks how to identify invasive species so it didn't become overrun again, how to maintain native species so they didn't kill everything with overwatering again. So we were providing benefits all over. And another piece of this is a charrette to do work with Bldg Chamber to look at the access points and make that safe, and look at the next projects that should be done across the river, the corner of the Pocket Park, and those things. I have a couple of copies for those who would like of the scope of work for both of those, and of the letter sent from the council member if you'd like to look at it. You can reach me at the office anytime, but we would like to include the neighborhood council in this. We would like to keep the money here locally for a small grassroots nonprofit with expertise who is a Studio City woman-run NGO who loves to collaborate, and that's what we'd love for you to consider. Thanks.
Sorry, I have a quick question. Sure. My name is Lisa Garagian. I've actually reached out to you before about this section between, I guess, Radford and Vineland, that portion of the river. How did you choose this section from Laurel to
Radford?
Whitsett and forgotten and
Yeah, we haven't forgotten. So we were able to get the Laurel to Radford stretch. There was a lot of community interest in it, first of all. CBS had proposed to do parking there at one point in time, so it was sort of a hot issue 23 years ago. So putting this before the supervisor's office and the State Coastal Conservancy, and the community support is what identified that one stretch from Laurel to Radford for us. The city of Los Angeles identified the Laurel to Whitsett stretch on their own. Oh my goodness. Excuse me, maybe it doesn't need to do that. I don't know, I guess Lisa's got, but there may be some people in the room who recall that we have repeatedly over the years advocated for the stretch on the other side of Colfax to Tujunga to be done, because community members there are very interested in that as well. But the city chose instead, at one point we were going to do that, they chose instead to do the stretch between Whitsett and Coldwater. So we're always trying to facilitate and help. We've done a design for the Pocket Park at the northwest corner of Laurel, across from the catty corner from the Toad Gate. We're here to help if people have ideas. We facilitated the Village Gardeners.
That this section between Radford and Vineland desperately needs attention.
I agree.
If we can just be a candidate for your next project.
I agree, yeah, and I think that's something that we can all talk about in the design charrette as we're looking at how the business district relates to the river and what the next steps should be.
Have you guys communicated with the sustainability committee? I don't know how involved.
She's on the sustainability committee.
I'm on the sustainability committee. I haven't brought it to the sustainability committee as a particular issue because I'm on the committee as a member, and I'm the liaison to the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance as well. Okay. I don't want to be like conflict of interest-y, but they all know what I do.
Thank you.
So,
glad. Is the 150 grand mentioned by Nazarian the same 150 grand that went? So
yeah.
Okay.
So that's the challenge, is that it was supposed to come to us, and the city seems to be taking it for themselves. So we'd like for y'all to weigh in so that that money stays here. And we're happy to, as we said, it was intended to partner with Rec and Parks and other city agencies, but they shouldn't be taking money out of our pocket, especially not when we have the superior expertise and the community roots.
Point of order, is a motion necessary to enter that into the public record?
This is where I'm going to really impress Nancy with procedural stuff, so we will get to it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's move on to Craig Harris.
There's two of us that want to speak about this. Could we have
30 seconds each?
Beverly Allen speak first?
Yeah. Okay. Beverly Allen.
All right, I'll speak from over here. Hello, thank you for listening to me. I am Beverly Allen. I am a classroom teacher at Carpenter Community Charter, and I have firsthand seen the marvelous work that Melanie Winter has done in the community, working with my students. I teach second grade, but also fourth and fifth grade students. She brought in all kinds of professionals to teach the kids about the native plants and about the native people that used to be here. The kids learned to care about their community. They learned how that they could change the environment of their community. So I really am here to encourage the board to make sure that this money stays in the Valley Greenway, and perhaps, again, involve Carpenter Community Charter, whose parents would probably get behind this and help keep it, looking good, and so everyone in the community can benefit from it. So I don't think there's anything else I have to say, but.
Thank you very much. Craig Harris.
Good evening. My name is Craig Harris. I had two students go through Carpenter Avenue Elementary, and they were able to go on these tours to the river with Melanie Winters. I also have a business in Studio City on Tujunga Village. my son happened to have his project chosen. He designed the tow gate, did a drawing, and the professional artist then implemented that. And took them out of school when they were fabricated, and it was a lot of fun for our family. But she had several projects, and there's if you go on that walkway between Laurel Canyon and Radford here, there's several things, some that has names of a lot of the people involved. My experience was that the parents were really excited in those years, but if there's a way for the area that I guess is going to be done next, between Whitsett and Laurel Canyon, to include this kind of community involvement. What I found is that a few years later, when the tow gate started, maybe could use a paint job and maybe do some restoring and stuff before it starts to rust, that it'd be possible to get some kind of parent involvement and family involvement in helping to maintain the things. Also, getting kids involved that young. They have projects they need to do for college scholarships and such, where perhaps they'll become junior high team leaders or high school team leaders. There'd be a way for, I don't know what the right committee is to do this, but I just felt responsible to show up and advocate for all along the river, but you have to take one project at a time. And so I'm proud of all you for what you're doing, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Allison?
Hi, congratulations. My name's Allison Martin. I'm a resident in Studio City. It's great to see a bunch of people actually working together and getting things done, as opposed to the rest of the world. I'm the one that got that letter from Nazarian, and I spoke to Caro Tarosian, who is Kerkorian's chief of staff today, and he told me that it is correct that $150,000 is not going to the river project. And I said, why? The letter says clearly that it would, and he said, it's very complicated. He couldn't really go into it with someone that doesn't know anything about the city, such as me. And I said, well, okay, I can believe that, but I think maybe you are actually working, you know, kind of for me, so let's try to explain some of it to me. And he said that it wouldn't be going to the river project, it would be going to the city, and they would do the best that they could. And I said, well, can you show me the scope or the plan that you have? He said, no, we don't have anything, but what we thinking we'll be doing will be costing much more money than the original plan proposed by the river project. And I said, well, does that make sense to you? I mean, I know I don't know anything about the city, but does that make sense to you as just a human being? And he said, well, this is all true. He said, well, you really don't know. There's a whole thing with contracts and approved contracts and all these things. So I hung up with him and I went on to the City Ethics Commission website, and it looks like there are a lot of ways for a lot of different organizations to have money from the city. I know nothing, but I could figure that out. And so I am hoping that you guys will take it upon yourselves to see that there's something not right here, and that river could. It used to be really, really beautiful. My kid, when she was 8, wrote a poem that was engraved on a bench, and my mother, who has since passed away, had an etching frame. It was just like a whole beautiful thing. And so I'm hoping that you guys will hear the conversation I had today with that chief of staff, and something will bother you enough to follow up on it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
Just after attending quite a few meetings recently, and everybody that gets up for pretty amazing public comments, but they're definitely impassioned, is there going to be a way where we facilitate people leaving their information? Because I think a lot of this comes in the form of...
We get it on our...
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I...
Right. Miles Orr.
We get on the time card.
I'm Miles Orr. I'm with the Department of City Planning for the City of Los Angeles, and
perfect.
We don't shoot me down. Don't shoot me down. We're updating. Some of you may have heard. We are updating the community plans in the Southeast Valley, which includes communities like Sherman Oaks, Studio City, Toluca Lake, And we are coming out with the initial plan concepts this summer. I have some flyers here that I can leave for everybody, and what that basically means is that we're preparing, it's a 3-year program, and we're preparing to establish policies and rules that will guide future growth in the whole community plan area, and the tool we use to implement that is called zoning. So as a part of this process, we're going to be revealing potential change and preservation areas in the Southeast Valley this summer. But before that process is happening, we've been visiting a lot of neighborhood councils in the Southeast Valley to kind of meet with their land use committees and talk to them about the feedback we've heard for the past 8 months. And we visited multiple other ones. We reached out in the past, but there's been some communication issues, I think. So we would love to reach out and talk with your committee. We've been talking to Sherman Oaks, Toluca Lake, North Hollywood, and we would love to meet next month, come to your committee and share some of the feedback we've heard. I just want to get the word out and make sure your board knows about it, stakeholders. I think I've been corresponding with Richard about the event this Saturday at Moore Park Park. Want to hear more about it? I'll stay after. We can answer questions. You can sign up for our sign-in sheet, but I think it's a really important process, and I think everybody here should. So definitely, we want to hear what you guys have to say.
I was just going to ask, does this mean I don't have to give you a booth, a table, and a chair?
Oh, still going to need that, but I appreciate it, though.
No hamburger for you.
Great, thank you very much. Paul. Storla.
Storiale. Everybody. Just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Paul Storiale. I'm the president of the NoHo Neighborhood Council. Congratulations to everybody and to you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice President.
Thank you.
I wanted to let you guys know that the NoHo Neighborhood Council shares with you, a councilman. We share an assembly person. We share a lot of the same common goals. And so therefore, please, if your committees ever want to work, hi Nancy. If your committees ever want to work with us, working together is going to be a lot stronger to the city than working alone on the same issue. I know that our homeless committees work together already. If we could work together, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and we need to make sure that the Southeast Valley squeaks so that we can take care of some issues. I'm going to leave my card with your president. And please take one if you'd like to work with us. And also, please come visit our meetings. They're fun, too.
All right, great. And, that's it for general public comment. Now we're going to move on. Actually, what's that? Okay, before you do that, Gibson has requested to jump ahead of you. Do you go with that?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, because they have, they would like to say something.
Yeah,
as well.
I'm just, before we...
Oh, sure, yeah,
doing,
yes.
Great. So we'll take really quick comment from behind you. Can you fill out a card?
Did you want to pull the comment?
Yeah.
I do.
You filled out a card?
I did.
Did you?
I did too.
Are you Stacy?
Yeah, I'm Stacy.
Well, these are for items that are coming up. That's why I wanted to switch. Gibson had requested to go ahead of it, so we'll get to those.
Before Gibson speaks, I have a real quick question, maybe a clarity issue. On the Studio City board meetings, it says that the public comments get 1 minute per speaker, but on the operational procedures, it says 3 minutes?
Yeah, so that's under discretion of the president of the board. So,
Correct.
Until,
so what are you allowing?
For tonight, I'm just kind of letting it go.
Okay.
Until I can kind of sit down and figure out what the procedure is.
Okay.
Gibson.
And do we not have a clock that is normally here?
We do, but that's the thing. It's like we have a clock, we have a thing,
We have
we have
sound system
microphones.
things, yeah, that'll be the next time.
We're a little ragtag tonight.
So today, the reason I'm asking to speak before the items of public safety, I just want everybody to feel comfortable in understanding sort of what you're voting on and your functions as a neighborhood council board member. And that's why I provided you with the folder. So if anybody just could, board members, just open it up. I want to touch base on the left-hand side, the 10 things to know as a neighborhood council board member. I do see with half the new board, there's definitely a lot of questions. And I just kind of want to touch base on several, I'm going to jump through some of the chapters, but I want to start just kind of as your role as a board member. One of the key things is you are a public servant. Committee stakeholders are going to be expecting more of you. They'll be holding you more accountable. You'll be receiving very friendly emails on a consistent basis. Please make sure you do not try to sort of go back and forth. One key thing as a public servant is your ability to be professional within a meeting room where you're not going back and forth with the stakeholders. One thing, just to remind everybody, the president, per the bylaws and operating procedures, is the captain of the ship during board meetings. During board meetings, one thing that's recommended is making sure that you read your operating procedure, which I'll go over and it's in the folder as well. If anybody wants to, I'll email you a digital copy. Just want to touch base that you are an elected official. One of the key things is your ability to speak professionally within a board meeting, committee meeting, being able to sort of understand that stakeholders will be frustrated as well as you. And in the same aspect, the stakeholders will assume that you're paid, and we always try to emphasize this. You are paid because you're giving your time. Your time is key here, and it is an unpaid position. There is no monetary sort of exchange here. Board members, you're empowering a community, and you're representing the community you serve in, and that's why you are representative of your community. You're addressing key issues within the community. That's why on the agenda there's a public comment on non-agenda items. Every meeting, there will always be a stakeholder who has a concern and is looking for ways for you to address it. One thing is, whenever that is brought into during public comment on a non-agenda item, the board cannot make a motion during this meeting. What can be proposed is the discussion in a committee meeting, and so the board can make official action in the next board meeting. One key thing that we're trying to practice with our neighborhood councils is brief exchanges with stakeholders, especially during public comment. You can always just provide information when information is necessary. Access to, do you have the information to your local elected official? Something that's just a quick briefing, but if it's something that does require a long exchange of providing information, getting all those, I always recommend doing a follow-up. Maybe you can step outside, just kind of with the stakeholder, do a follow-up, get that person's information, figure out what the issue that they're trying to what is the issue they're addressing. We want to make sure that the meeting goes on without interruption, right? Also, one thing I want to go into page 3, chapter 3, what rules and policies apply to you as a neighborhood council? One of the key things is definitely mentioned by stakeholders tonight is neighborhood councils are subject to the American with Disabilities Act. We want to make sure that all public meetings are AD accessible. Committee meetings, board meetings, we want to make sure that stakeholders have access to our meetings. Per Bldg policy, if a stakeholder does need AD assistance, what we usually ask is they make a request, possibly, I think it's 24 hours before the meeting, to ensure that we have an ability to accommodate it. One key thing, if the board is able to post the agenda, let's say a week beforehand, and a stakeholder finds the contact information, on your agenda you're supposed to have a most recent contact information at the bottom on the agenda with a point of contact. That's something we'll make sure it's updated. The board can seek the assistance of the department to make sure that we can address those issues. Do we need hearing aids? Do we need to make sure that stakeholders can get here on time? Or can they access to this meeting? We want to make sure that we're able to address those. Another thing is going on to the state law. One thing is you're subject to the Brown Act. All meetings must be posted. If it's a standing committees and the general board meeting have to be posted 72 hours before the meeting. 72 hours. So committee members, board members, please make sure that per the Brown Act, you have the agenda is posted 72 hours. That's something that can be distributed amongst the board. In addition, make sure per the Brown Act it has to have one physical posting. One physical posting to make sure that stakeholders have access. They know what's going to be presented. That's why we always ask to make sure everything is agendized per the board. Does everybody know that the board meeting meets on this date, this time of the month? Is everybody aware of that? Just want to make sure everybody's good with that. Do you know?
Third Wednesday.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Lisa. It is the third Wednesday of every month. We want to make sure that all board members know that. If there's a need to do a special meeting, it's 24 hours. Unless it's not during its regular scheduled timing, or there's maybe an additional agenda item that the board wants to discuss after the regular board meeting, the board can do that, do a 24-hour posting. If it's very different from its regularly scheduled time, which is the third Wednesday of every month. It's important that we make sure that all agenda items are posted correctly, and if there always is a need to make sure there's revised, just make sure when you submit it to the early notification system to NC support, you say revise, so when we post it, the agenda is it can say that there's a revision on the agenda, because sometimes there can always be mistakes. So that's what we want to make sure we're doing. Also, I want to touch base on the Bldg posting policies. Just in addition to doing the Brown Act locations, we want to make sure that the agendas are posted online on our website. Please make sure the Studio City the website is one of the key areas of stakeholders will try to find information. So it is important that we make sure all committees are posted on the website as well as the physical posting. In addition, if the neighborhood council doesn't post it on the website, the requirement per the BONK policy, which is the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, is 5 physical locations. So let's make sure we stick to making sure we have 1 physical and making sure that it's posted on the website and submitted to NC support 72 hours before or 24 hours if it's a special meeting. Does anybody have questions?
So with committees as well?
Standing committees as well, yes.
Where you say physically posted, it's.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, we have 2 things.
Yeah,
So whoever's on the committee chair is usually in charge of getting that out, right?
Yes. The goal is to make sure, yes, you have your agenda submitted to the NC support, which I think the president will definitely just do administrative sort of email. We'll follow up on that just to make sure that you have that. You submit it to NC support, physically posted, and make sure it's on the website.
And you'll distribute our neighborhood council emails.
That's something I'm going to touch base on, and I think, yeah.
And I can help, any questions or if I need to walk through this process.
So our physical posting area is on both sides of Radford.
Okay.
The 2 exit gates, one in Colfax and one in Radford, the keys in the office. It's outside the gate.
Outside the gate, we post the agenda there so that the public can see it.
There's a learning curve, and what I'm going to ask is making sure that, to make sure stakeholders have questions, sometimes just take a picture out of precaution. Take a picture of once you physically posted, because if a stakeholder has a concern, you want to be able to show that per the picture, 72 hours was posted in advance, or maybe somebody may have taken it down, but we want to make sure that there is record that you had posted. Please be cautious with the posting. That is something I want to kind of sort of exercise on, is making sure that we definitely do the public posting. In addition, making sure the minutes are on the website as well. Once the board does vote on the minutes, please make sure that they are posted as well on our website. If the board wants to take future action of maybe hiring a minute taker or having the corresponding secretary take record, those are options. Just want to make sure that, at least let's make sure that the minutes are available to the general public. It's part of the BONK policy, making sure that they are posted. In addition, board members, in the folder you will see you have your bylaws and operating procedures, I hope, on the left hand. Right, on the right hand. You will see that your bylaws and your operating procedures are in there. Please take a second when you get a chance this evening or in the next few weeks. Take a second to please read that. It definitely gives you a guideline as to how the neighborhood council does function. What I want is to be able to, yes, Ms. Lisa.
Are you going to have an orientation?
Does this orientation?
This is, I guess,
I want to do this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask to be on the agenda again.
Oh, okay.
But I want to.
We're just going to be part of the agenda.
I want to be on the agenda.
Specific date.
You're not gonna have a date.
We can follow up on that one during the board retreat. I just wanted, because this is the first meeting with a lot of new folks, it's questions, and I want to be able to at least help answer some.
Absolutely.
Yes. Want to touch base, so make sure you please read your procedures and bylaws. One key thing is just making sure that you understand that, because what happens is we'll be able to at least understand the regulations and what's mandated of you as a neighborhood council board member. I want to touch base on, what's my next item? I do want to touch base on communication skills and conflict management. One thing is, everybody will completely disagree. I want to be clear, everybody. One thing is, whenever there's a contentious issue, please let's make sure that we do let the president run the meeting. Consistently, you will find a room full of people ready to fight. I'm just kidding, not ready to fight, but more like they are passionate and they want to be advocate. They want to be listened to. I'm going to ask board members that whenever public comment does come in, if a stakeholder does accuse you of anything, please do not try to engage with that stakeholder. It will happen. The ability is to make sure that you're able to engage in a professional manner, thanking stakeholders for their public comment, and being able to continue on with the meeting. One key thing is the president will be able to let people discuss. When there's a matter of discussion, please do not speak over each other. Do not point at each other. You may be in disagreement with the issue. Just say, I respectfully disagree on a certain opinion, but do not name each other. I'm going to sort of try to reiterate that. Let's avoid the name calling to make sure that we keep the meeting going, keeps it professional. Stakeholders will be frustrated with us, with the board at times as well, in addition with the department. Those happens all the time, it's fine. One thing is just being able to make sure that we professionally and sort of be able to show appreciation. One key thing I'm gonna ask is making sure we show appreciation for our stakeholders whenever they have an issue. Even if a board member is angry about something, we will thank them for their time. That's why when a stakeholder mentioned about something, I thank them, thank you for your public comment. Making sure that we're able to continue that. That will happen also in your committee meetings. We wanna make sure there is no back and forth between board members. You will disagree. I like to say that, you will disagree. And I wanna make sure that you're able to sort of communicate with one another. I'm gonna ask everybody to watch their tone with one another as well. Future board meetings, please be respectful of one another. Tone is important. You'll see that as we continue to function and work collaboratively well, I think one key thing, as the president has mentioned, is homelessness is definitely a key issue within the community. And one thing is people do sort of have opposing views on the philosophy of it. The issue is homelessness, let's stick to it. We may disagree on philosophy, but let's make sure we avoid you agree with them, right? All that name calling and finger pointing, I'm asking that to not happen. If the meeting does go awry, what I'm gonna provide the president with information is, for future meetings, we can put removal warnings. We wanna make sure that if stakeholders, or if a meeting does get contentious, we wanna make sure that there are removal warnings where people can be asked to leave the facility. We wanna make sure that board members and stakeholders feel that this is a positive experience and also a place where they can be advocated for. We wanna make sure that those removal signs can be posted. There's a procedure where the president will ask the stakeholder to please stop the commotion. The president can make 2 or 3 warnings. In addition, the president can take a recess, and if necessary, we can just break the meeting and just have everybody leave to make sure that if that does get there. The intent is not to do that. The intent is to make sure that we're here to advocate for one another, but we want to make sure there's a process for it, and I just want everybody to be informed about that. I want to touch base also on your left-hand side, the plan for citywide neighborhood councils. One of the key things I want to touch base within the plan is is just kind of the goals and objectives of the neighborhood council. It's the first page when you turn it over. You as a neighborhood council board member, one of the objectives is you're promoting public participation. So let's make sure we're doing that. We want to make sure that we're providing the goals. We're assisting our stakeholders. A good percentage of people who do come into these meetings are your neighbors. And so we want to make sure that we're informing them that they can actually participate within the neighborhood council. We want to make sure that we're facilitating and improving communication amongst one another, as well as just all your neighborhood councils. Because sometimes you may take a motion that may be in disagreement with another neighborhood council. Please make sure that we are not sort of in disagreement or we overstepping our boundaries where we're making motions for other neighborhood councils. We want to make sure that we're facilitating with our neighborhood council. We can collaborate with with other neighborhood councils. That is the intent. That is why the plan for citywide neighborhood councils is created, and that's why the language is that. We want to make sure that you're creating equal participation with your fellow neighborhood councils. So that's why please avoid I would not say avoid, but also just try, if a neighborhood council does let you know that, hey, this could be no boundary, let's make sure we're respectful of that and just kind of see if we can come to an understanding. We're trying to make sure we help increase participation and collaboration amongst all board members. Again, we just want to make sure we're fostering a sense of community. Yes, Mr.
I have a question. It sounds good of communication with the stakeholders. How is that done? Are we doing it through the committees?
It's all through all levels. So one thing, thanks for mentioning that, is your interaction with stakeholders will be in different aspects. It will be during public comment in the committees. It will be during public comment in the board meetings. It will be through email. One key thing is email is definitely a way of interaction for board members. Whenever you get anything between one another, BCC one another, please make sure there's no serious.
With the board members, I'm clear. I'm not clear with the stakeholders. How do we communicate?
So, as you
have access to the community, basically.
In
terms of what are the rules of engagement with our community as a board member.
So the president can set, as mentioned, asked before, having a timer during public comment. Is that?
But how do they even know to come? I was a resident of
email. So there is we have a database of residents.
And that's where you come in. So if some stakeholders don't know about it, how do we, then that we can do that as part of the retreat.
I think that's something that I really want to take on.
Which is fantastic. So we can do that as part of the board retreat. We can do that as part of the board retreat where we can come up with a strategy for the board. To do, hey, do we do an outreach bus? Yeah. No, I'm just adding on to that. I just want to add, like, we want to help the neighborhood council come up with strategies on how to incorporate stakeholders. Similar to how you did never heard about this, now people will ask you, how come I never heard about this? So where do you come in? And so, hey, you can sign up for our notifications, our newsletter, our website. I want to sort of circle back into how communication between board members. The key thing is making sure you're not communicating over email, serial communication. If you want to make an announcement, BCC one another. BCC, or if you want to have an issue, you can let the president know, and he can sort of help facilitate the communication. The goal is to avoid any email communication because that is not, because the board is discussing on items of issues without the stakeholders being aware. So avoid doing, emailing everybody, right? I do know we're gonna work with the president. Please make sure you have an email that you feel comfortable working in. If you wanna change it to a specific email that just works within the neighborhood council issues, please do that. One key thing is stakeholders may be able to request for your records in regards to certain issues. They can do California, the CPRA, California Public Request Act. Yes, Richard? Okay. So one thing is just to try to make sure that you feel comfortable with a specific way of communication. So if you want to, once you get it, if you have a new email that you want to use for neighborhood council, let us know. I do know within the neighborhood Studio City there's a.
Yeah, we've got it. We can supply you with an email address of Studio City NC to use for public use if you'd like.
And then I'll work with the president to make sure that all that information is updated. It is always all on our website. Please make sure you feel comfortable with doing that. If there's anything that is on the agenda, if there's any issue that we do need to address in terms of administrative duties, let me know. I'll try to make sure, I'm gonna do my due diligence to make sure that we address them as fast as we can. That's gonna be the end of me speaking. I just want to touch base. If anybody has any questions, please ask me right now. Is there any questions? Yes, Alex.
Yeah, Gibson, just in hindsight, why didn't we plan like an orientation like a couple of weeks ago?
Because once we're able to seat the new board, we're able to
just
function.
for information's sake, you don't have to be a board member to give them information.
So that was the one thing.
I just think it's good that we're doing it now, but it just seems a little bit maybe rushed and not really, and I don't expect it to be complete because we have a whole group of stakeholders here that want to listen to business. So
Understandable. What I'm just trying to do as a department is once the new board was seated and we have new officers who can help the board function.
Yeah. Okay.
Once the board is now able to have new officers and we're able to have things functioning, we're able to get information.
Yeah.
And then we can work with the new president to make sure we do board orientation. This is just for me to make sure that
It's very helpful, but I just want to make sure it's effective, so we should
it is.
some time.
I get you. I agree with you.
I think
just
it's
want
worth
to make
noting that all this material was emailed to the new board members.
Oh, absolutely.
But
And you can-
not timely perhaps, but.
And there was a whole seminar you could have gone to and attended that would have addressed all of this few folks. when they give
So
you
I'm just
fancy
doing it
findings.
as I like redundancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been doing leadership workshops and everybody should have received the notifications. We've had several board members. I see several people attended, they had questions. I'm gonna ask to be on the agenda again. I just wanted to kind of run through. Take a look at the folder, please. So if you have questions, email me, ask me.
Well, don't just look at it and read it.
Thank you, Miss Lisa. And that is the last word. Oh, yes.
Really quick, I know they promote events like Civic U.
Yes.
How come if you register for it, we receive no feedback from Empower LA?
For
like,
Civic
there's no
U?
confirmation. There's no directives on that. I mean, it's great to have these organized, but I don't feel there's like a good channel of communication.
There is, because email is one of our main key ways.
No, but
of
I'm saying we don't
communication.
receive any like.
If, once you signed up, what we do is we're doing confirmation, because I definitely see several board members who have showed up to some of our workshops. So maybe that's something I want to address with you, like, is there something that you signed up for and want to make sure you get an answer for, so we'll do that. Yeah.
I'm either. Should I just ask? Who
Yeah.
hasn't done their training in both ethics and the finance? The record's kind of spotty. Is everyone done? Great. Good. All right. Actually, I have a quick question for the two last public comments. Were these for agenda item 5? I just read them again. It may not be. I think it's general.
It's for, not for either of the motions, but it's for the public safety committee.
Oh, okay.
It's something we're gonna pursue, and I'll mention that later, but it is something the public
Should they go
comments.
first?
Yeah, they should go first.
Great. Let's have Stacy.
Of course,
Or it doesn't matter which one.
I talk in a lot of these things.
Great.
Congratulations. I hope you do well. Usually I'm up here talking about airplanes, but I found a new thing to fight City Hall against, which I've been there and I've spoken to the city council members, which I encourage all of you to do that as well. They've got 3 city council meetings every week. So it would be great if some of you went there and fought for Studio City for some of the things that your stakeholders are passionate about, which for me right now is the 5G cell towers. One of them has popped up on Moore Park, right near a lovely residential area as well as a park. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the emissions that come off of these towers, as well as it is now FCC regulated. So the FCC has pulled all of the power away from local and state governments, and they're overseeing it. So they're saying, we can put 1 million of these throughout our lovely country, the United States of America, based on where we want to put them, and we don't really care if they're right across from a park and causing cancer and causing learning deficiencies in children and emitting, actually Rochelle will cover that a little bit better than myself. I mean, I'm happy to give you different studies that have been done with these towers and different communities that have fought the FCC on this as well. I've spoken with Ursula at AT&T, and she's basically playing the pass the buck. We've done everything that we can. These things are safe. Don't you worry about it. But why would AT&T put it right next to a park, 50 feet away from a park with children? It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that Studio City, I'm looking at a lot of you and you're like, what is she talking about? That scares me even more. That these things are popping up and they're not regulated, and we're paying for the power out of our pockets, out of our community, to feed these cancer-causing, deficiency-causing towers that are going to be popping up all over the place. I've also spoken to a very good friend of mine over at Krikorian's office, again, passing the buck, tossing it around. So I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that this won't be the last time you hear me about this. I'll also be going and speaking with City Council against this, because it's a problem, and we're actually paying for it. We're paying for the power for these things to be put up, and we have no say in it whatsoever. Thank you.
Hi. Congratulations. My name is Rochelle Crum. I've been a homeowner here for 10 years, and I have 2 small children. I'm here to ask you, sorry, I'm going to be reading. I'm a little nervous.
Please do.
I'm here to ask you for help in urging AT&T and the city does have power in this, to clarify, to relocate the dangerous 5G small cell light pole device. It is right next to Moore Park, the playground at Moore Park, which is very popular with toddlers, and my residential area. It is 70 feet from another family and 120 feet from my home and many others. The device emits and pulses harmful millimeter waves of electromagnetic radiation that is a class 2B carcinogen. This is all, I have all this information verified, studies, it's all official information. Studies have shown there's a large increase in cancer in those living within 350 feet of a wireless transmitter station. Sprint recently shut down a similar device at a California school because 6 children developed cancer. The FCC is recklessly fast-tracking these 5G devices to compete globally, but they have not conducted any health research at all. Neither has the FDA, the EPA, nor the wireless companies, nor the city. Many cities and regions around the world have fought the placement of these devices. And in California, Mill Valley in Northern California issued an emergency wireless ordinance to restrict them from residential areas. San Francisco denied 5G devices placement based on aesthetic reasons only. This device in front of my home does not comply with visual factors that AT&T agreed to in its city contract. The city does not have a wireless ordinance right now. I verified that with the planning department. I've been in discussion with them. Many people fought a proposed AT&T cell tower for Beaman Park 5 years ago. I have a copy of the petition. Please give us similar support to relocate this hazardous 5G light pole device to a commercial or retail location. And here's a picture of it.
Can I ask How does the wattage of 5G compare to 4G?
So it's much worse than 4G. I'll tell you I would have to forward you studies just to tell you specifically, but there's a lot of research on how 5G basically it affects your nervous system and it goes through your skin. Now that sounds weird, but it does, and it's much worse than 4G. The FCC hasn't done research since what I've read is the 90s. So they're basically just fast tracking this. Some senators are against it. Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut spoke at a Senate hearing in February. There's a YouTube video on it and his press release on it, basically saying we're flying blind here. There's no health studies. What are you going to do to the FCC in a hearing?
Well, thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you.
Please keep in touch. All right, with that, Public Safety Committee report.
All right.
Michael Piscitelli.
I'm gonna break some precedent and head back over here. Sorry. Thanks to the old board. Thank you guys very much. Congrats to the new board and all the new chairs and the presidents and vice presidents, treasurers. Thank you. Okay, this is still on. So let me see. Got some words here, some words there. Thanks for re-upping me as committee chair. I appreciate that. As some of you know, I do travel a lot for work, so I won't be able to be here all the time, but I'll definitely leave you in the capable hands of Rachel Tobias, our vice chair, and then Marcia and Patty and Patrice and everybody who comes by, because they're just lovely people. They get things done and they have a lot of outstanding ideas, so I love having them on this. Let's see. Alex, you too, buddy. So, first things first, I'm going to try to move quickly through these because I know we have two motions. I'll talk about the NNO in a second, but in speaking with Parks and Rec, they've requested money for the movie night out, which is also on the 22nd. So while I forwarded some stuff to Richard Welsh, now that the new board is here, and treasurer and everything, that's probably something to get with them and talk about quickly. I'm just the go-between, just letting you know. And who's the treasurer? Who's the new treasurer now? All right, Rick, I will CC you, just throw you over the invoices, what they're talking about. And yeah, that's where I'll leave that. What with working together, yeah, Empower LA has no one-button communication with other neighborhood councils, so I put together all 99 general emails so we can put them on one link, and we can, whether it's the Public Safety Committee or whether it's homeless or something like that, we can all just kind of keep them, copy and paste, and just shoot out everything to everyone, whether it's a motion or whatever that we all need to be on board with or could be on board with. So you guys will receive that soon. Just offhanded things, Melanie and the Water Greenway did come through the Public Safety Committee last week about the $150,000. You know, this is, we can see what we can do in our little bit with the Public Safety Committee, but obviously, like she said, it has a number of committees as well as other bigger things than us. You know, my personal opinion, not speaking for the committee, is that, of course, they should have a say in where that money goes. Again, that's not the committee. I'm not speaking for them. But we will aid in looking into what we can do to help that out. Let's see. So Rochelle did come to us, who just spoke, about 5G. I put it on the agenda. She came in, and in a little bit of studying that I had done, boy, these 5G cell towers. It's a little bit scary, and it caught me off guard when you know, Jessica had come in here and said that the FCC forced these towers onto us. And a cursory search, I didn't think it was a big deal. Cursory search turned out something bigger than I thought it would be, and it was plants being killed. It was weird things happening to the birds, to the animals, because I don't know the wattage, Rick, but something's going on. All of these pictures, and I noticed them popping up around town here, they don't have trees around them, so it's not something we can physically see when that happens, but I think it's definitely warranted that something has got to be done on a neighborhood council level, and I do believe public safety should take a role in that. We could not do any motion because we didn't have it on the agenda, but it's something worthy of everyone talking about and just studying. Just do a Google search. Trust me, there's a lot. She has a lot of information and a lot more people that can talk to this as well. And since we have large families around here as well, this does affect people and kids even more so. People who have diseases as well. It is a bigger deal than I first thought. So, if those of you don't know, we have social media handles on Twitter and IG, Twitter and Instagram, Studio City PS. That is someplace you can follow the Public Safety Committee as far as we go. And with that, we have no trespass signs on social media already. This is for everyone behind me as well, anyone who owns a business, a resident, or anything like that. We do have these forms that the LAPD would request that you fill out, turn in to them for anyone who is trespassing on your property. I won't go deeply into it now, but you can download it. There are signs that you can post as well if you guys are a business. There are things that you need to do if you're a resident. But this allows the LAPD to do their job if you're not home without getting your permission because you've already turned it in. So look for our Twitter and our Instagram as well as our Facebook page as well. Please join. All of this stuff is up on all of those as far as the trespass signs. Okay, with that. Okay, motion A. Let's get first to that. What is that? 5A, whatever that is. And yay, you guys get to vote on something. Sorry, folks.
Get ready, everyone.
Hey, this is. Okay, we all know what has come down in the last 2 weeks, and my main thing was the trash that popped up last week. And reading Twitter feeds, reading our other council member feeds, it just so happens that for the last 615 days, it seems that there was something that was stuck in our LA City Council about putting our homeless to work, those homeless who would like to work, and there's a long process that goes with it, which is why I attached the LA Times editorial opinion article to this as well, so hopefully everyone else studied up on it, but there's a lot that goes into it. They seem to have their ducks in a row with it, and it seemed like something for the Public Safety Committee to put out to you all that we can just get one voice and say, hey, Krikorian, can you back your council members, Buscano and Blumenfield? I can't even pronounce my own last name. Hopefully I pronounced his last name correctly. But so that's what this motion 5A is. And with that, I will read it to you. And it's support of an LA City Council members pilot program. The members of the Studio City Neighborhood Council Public Safety Committee request the board support legislation LA City Council members Buscano and Blumenfield have put forward for a pilot program run by Chrysalis to help clean the streets of Los Angeles by employing homeless people who are looking for work. We also request our council member, Paul Krikorian, support this program by sending him a unified letter from the board. That is what we're requesting. If everybody hopefully studied up on it and thinks it's a good idea as well, we just send this to Krikorian saying, hey, Paul, do you mind supporting your council members? I don't know if he does or doesn't. As far as this point, I've got email for a month and a half, 2 months into somebody over there who has not responded yet, but no big deal. I now throw the ball in your court.
These are more procedural observations. The motion in support of what the two councilmen are doing should be submitted as a community impact statement, CIS for those of you that speak acronym, to the council file. And a polite suggestion is it's always handy to have the council file number in these motions when you bring them forward. And the same thing with the letter to Paul Krikorian, assuming you guys approve that. Please reference the council file, ask him if he'll consider co-sponsoring it, et cetera, give them something specific to do.
Yeah. This isn't a council file yet, though, right? Is this a council file yet, or is this just we're urging them to support?
I'm urging Paul to support them.
Legislation, so I assumed it had a council file.
Urging Paul to support them, and they have had it trapped in there for 615 days.
Oh, I see.
It is close to coming to a full vote, as far as I know, but as a unified voice, I think.
Any other comments before?
Just a question.
Yeah.
What? Who's city council? Which committee or which councilman's committee is it stuck in?
Where it's stuck, that's a good question. I'm sorry, I can't answer you that. But who started this was Buscano and Blumenfield. So those are the two who started this. But again, 615 days. Whew.
I guess it's.
Yeah, as somebody who's new sitting new on the board, my biggest question is you know, we're going to vote on something that we haven't discussed prior.
Okay.
And I do actually think that a community impact statement is the appropriate response. To put it in a statement that the board supports, that all the committees support, in a formal way and then submit that to the city council, to Krikorian's office, and saying, this is the view of the board in whole, and go forward. I don't know that a vote is going to,
I think
is
you
the
could
appropriate
wanna
measure.
table it?
You could make a motion to table it.
Yeah.
Table the next meeting for further discussion.
Yeah, whatever gets it done is the thing. And again, I made a link on this thing, so everyone hopefully was able to look into it a little bit more. But with that said, yeah, whatever gets it done, and you know, hopefully the board.
I would motion to table it then, and I'd even participate in helping write the community impact statement. I'm not saying no, I'm saying let's do it in a way that makes the biggest impact and gets your issue in front of eyeballs.
I agree with that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
Great.
whatever is the most impact.
Let's table
Perfect.
it now.
Perfect, and we'll come back around for CIA.
Great.
We'll look at that. Cool.
5B.
Cool. 5B, okay, all right, so here's a wonderful one. And Gibson, please feel free to jump in here as well, my friend. So, National Night Out. If those of you who don't know, National Night Out is a yearly thing put on by the nation, either August 6th or October 1st, depending on where you live. We're doing August 6th. It is a community event in partnership with LAPD, LAFD as well, and we have started building it around Parks and Rec over at Beeman Park. We have a number of people excited about it, including LAPD, as far as our SLO, Sean Smith goes, and everyone else. We're deep into planning this. It's something that a lot of people do. With that said, with the crossover of July 1st being the new fiscal year, with a new board, with this happening August 6th, with the next meeting happening in July, we have a problem. And not just we, but every neighborhood council has a problem getting funding for this. So, Gibson, you probably know this as well. Obviously, you had to deal with it last year, but we're going to try to push it through as quickly as possible. There's certain things that we need to try to reserve people, places, and things. We had a lengthy conversation with Richard, who knows about this as well. And Patty Kirby, who's a part of the committee, threw a wonderful one at the Staples Center off Ventura a while ago. The Staples, not Center, but the store. So anyways, it's a big process, and we need money. At the very least, we need, somebody thought it was the Staples Center before, go figure. I guess it was the size of it.
It was Penn's Bowling Alley parking lot.
Okay, I heard it was huge though. It's got a band and everything, so okay. So what we're looking for is funds up to $4,000. This is what we talked about, just going up to $4,000. With that said, that's a big chunk of money for all of you and for new people coming in. We don't want all of that. We don't need all of that. We just want to have access to stuff. So there's certain things that are line items that we can just knock off right off the bat. But we need to get this going because we have no time to push this through the city come next meeting. That gives us 2.5 weeks. So I'm putting my personal stuff down to reserve people, and I'm going to see what we can do, work out things with other vendors, hopefully. But the basics is that we have our Bart's Carts is coming in with hot dogs and food and their permits as well. That's a chunk of the money. We have gifts from Amazon.com that are coming in, so we can either raffle off or give away to kids. Nobody's paying for anything here because it's a neighborhood event. We've got bounce houses as well, typical things, and we also have exhibitors making this somewhat of a safety event. Again, it's at Beeman Park. Parks and Rec is taking care of their own permits. Another reason why we teamed up with them. Helps make it easier, at least on us. So we're just looking for some sort of funds up to, not to spend all of that by any stretch. I come from production management, as well as Rachel Tobias comes from production management back in reality television and all of that. So pinching pennies, we get it. We definitely get it. Don't want to spend it all. So with that said, that is the next motion where we are asking for up to $4,000 to put on the National Night Out in association with the LAPD and bring everyone else out for it. So.
Second it. There's a comment.
What are you proposing?
Yeah, this is somewhat procedural and somewhat in support. I'm the one who first brought it up to Mike that we should do the event he was talking about doing as a National Night Out event at the park, maximum visibility for the neighborhood council, maximum participation. And I will be corrected on this if I'm wrong, but we are still currently in the old fiscal year. So I believe, once again to be corrected, that this board can appropriate money out of this year's budget to be spent forward. So you're not touching next year's piggy box.
Yeah, I was gonna say. And what have we appropriated yearly? Is it 38,000?
42.
42.
Yeah,
42.
Mr. Wells?
I would suggest that it really doesn't matter, we're fighting about the threshold of what will be rolled over,
Yeah.
about $10,000.
Because if they don't vote on it today, they're never gonna get it done in July.
Well, right, so voting on it, but whether it's appropriated out of the last fiscal year, coming fiscal
Yeah.
year, doesn't.
Okay, so we're not over that 10,000 by like a ton, if at all.
We're gonna roll over probably about $9,500.
It's pretty good.
So, yeah,
All right.
that's probably
But you spend the 4,000 out of this year, then you have next year's piggyback is completely untouched.
Nice.
Piggy bank.
Anyone else have comments before we take a roll call?
Okay, does he have a better figure than like 0 to 4,000? Because that's pretty good.
Not 0 to 4,000. Well, unfortunately, as we build
We didn't set
this,
the budget.
yeah, unfortunately, as we build this, some are going to be knocked off, some aren't, which is why we all decided on up to 4,000. I'm not going to spend that. Right now, we're at about
For
3,000.
instance, like for the election, we had a $9,000 budget, and we spent maybe like 4.
Yeah.
3. I think it was something like that. It was not, it's just to have the freedom of it. I'm not trying to argue one way or the
No,
other.
I'm just asking.
I have the line item, Michael. I do have the line items for now, but again, some are going to drop off. Like some helpers for $400, we don't need that. But bounce houses, you know what I
Come
mean?
on, how do you do a party without a bounce?
That's what I'm saying. So that's where I'm coming up with.
Which park? I'm sorry.
Beeman Park.
Beeman, okay.
So it's just to give you a little bit more, teaming up with Parks and Recs, what it's going to be is in the fields themselves. As the sun goes down, there's no lights where the kid play stuff is, but Gregorian's office is bringing in some extra stuff. We're going to have it again underneath the lights. We do have already, Sean Smith from LAPD is bringing in his big command center. We got a car coming out. We've got Fire Station 78. We don't have Swiftwater Rescue yet, but Battalion 14, I think. We have vendors with safety, female safety coming in for families. We have just a lot of people who have said yes so far that'll help out families in the area. Not one more, not net. We got a lot of people, exhibitors. So, free.
Any other comment before we go to roll call? It's
I have a
financial.
question. Did I understand that you have a line item of $3,000 right now?
Right now, it's like 3,045 right now. But again, like I said before, with something like extra workers, I am really hoping that we have a lot of volunteers to help work. So that $400 doesn't go anywhere else, but it's allotted right now. So,
Got
yeah.
it. Do you suspect that the extra $1,000 will be allotted as well? That you'll reach that
To 4? No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Question. This is a yearly event?
This is a yearly event. This year, just so you know, and again, I've spoken with Richard and everybody with the committee as well. We, as a neighborhood council, are putting it on this year. Sometimes you team up. I guess there was something done with Cahuenga West last year. I know with Patty's, I think, was the last big blowout that Studio City had on their own. Oh, we're getting a helicopter too for free, by the way. Just so you know, he's calling that in. So with that, this is going to be ours this year, in conjunction with Parks and Rec. But next year, no, we can team up with other people.
The reason they had it at Pim's once and once only is because it was so popular, all the other businesses in the local area complained they had no parking. So by having it at the park and with relaxed parking, 8-10 years ago, we had one in front of my house just for neighborhood watch. 400 or 500 people showed up, including the mayor.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get everybody. This is what we do. A little PR, come on.
You keep referring to we, but this we changes. I'm not sure who is we, and sometimes I use it. Who is we that decided on this? That
Public
now
safety.
The neighborhood is doing it.
Public safety.
Who's sponsoring this? Like.
Public Safety Committee.
Okay, so that's what you're saying. Sorry, I'm.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm chair of the Public Safety Committee. Re-up, thank you.
That, but okay.
So we, as far as representatives of Studio City Neighborhood Council, as far as LAPD as well, this is in conjunction with LAPD.
Okay.
It's their thing. That's what the National Night Out is. Again, across the nation, so everybody does it to more or less extent. And it's a neighborhood block party coming together, barbecue, dogs, meeting your neighbors, and meeting the LAPD. Well,
So this will be advertised to the stakeholders?
it already is. We've already put it out on social media. DA Mike Fuhrer has already retweeted it as well. We're going to have him come down. We're going to set up a booth. He is a part of a mediator from the DA's office. We will reach out to CBS, NBC. We already are. We have use of the logos, so that's going to be a blitz. Yeah. So that's what
Thank you.
When you reach out to CBS, NBC, do you get them, ask them for actors from their police and fire shows? Is that kind of?
I'm gonna ask them if they can come in uniform, please. Are you being serious?
No, I thought like. That's not what you're asking.
CBS News. I'm sorry, NBC News.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, KTLA, all of that stuff. So I mean news. Yeah, we'll try to do our best to get news in here, and why would they not? Hopefully, Jessica already knows about it, and Paul's office does. So hopefully.
All right, one more comment, and can we move to vote?
Patty, I put on, well, with the committee. The last one, we spent $10,000, so we don't need to
Who
do
spent
that.
We did?
That was like 5, 6, 7 years ago.
It's a deer.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is tame it down, but it really is a support for LAPD, to show our appreciation and to unite the community. So this is a great chance for Studio City outreach.
Okay. And with that, if we can move to a vote, it's financial, so we'll have to do a roll call.
Okay, so, Tony? Yeah, okay. Adam?
Yes.
Okay, Rick?
Yes.
Duca? Yes. Randall?
Yes.
Claire?
She left.
Okay. Jesse?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Joseph, he's not here. Lisa?
Just a quick question. Yeah. Because I did walk out for a second and I apologize for that, but did you read the motion?
I did not read the motion.
You didn't read the motion?
I did not. I read the other one. If you would like me to read it now, more than welcome to. All right, more than happy to. Motion 5B, National Night Out Budget. The Public Safety Committee approves a budget of up to $4,000 to fund the Studio City Neighborhood Council National Night Out on August 6, 2019. Preliminary line item budget is available upon request. All receipts will be kept. Due to change in the fiscal year, personal expense will be needed to be reimbursed for purchasing some items and holding talent prior to the event. That's what that would be.
I think I just read it in your voice to
Did
myself.
I recorded it. It'll be up on iTunes soon.
And National Night Out, the date is?
Ours is August 6th, which is Tuesday. That's there in that motion as well. So what it's going to be also is 7 to 10 p.m.
Okay.
More questions?
So you'll come back in July with that line item, more condensed and more accurate to?
Very much.
Close to $4,000 or?
Much less. Well, less.
Okay.
Very much so.
So, yeah.
Yes, okay. Yanni?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Alexa?
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you very much.
Sweet. Thank you, everyone. Thanks
So
for your
before we move on to closing comments, I mentioned earlier that there's a time to do things through procedure, and there's time to do things quickly, but still keeping with procedure. We heard a lot of public comments today on what to do about the Greenway project. And although it's not on the agenda, and the agenda is locked, Robert's Rules of Order says that with a 2/3 vote of the board, which out of 13 means 9, we can approve to add this motion to the agenda, which is basically just a way of getting what people have been talking about into a vote. I'd like to bring this up to try to get this on the agenda. This is not a vote on whether you agree with it or not. It's just procedural to alter the agenda. So we need a 2/3 vote. If I take a minute to look over it. Yeah.
Before you start, I had some general comments on public safety, in part because of the other comments.
Yeah.
I just want to spit them out real fast. Add some clarity and some information to it. Oh, and there's one other thing. Those of you that are new to the board, I would politely suggest you create a SCNC exclusive email and use it for all your communications. So that if you ever get a Public Records Act request from a stakeholder or another board member, they can't plow through all of your emails.
Yeah, Patrick said that those were going to be sent out by, I think, is it Philip? Or?
You can make it's a professional suggestion based on years of experience. Do whatever you want. And make sure you don't, if you do get a private one, don't use it for anything else.
Yeah.
The 5G issue and the FCC putting them in,
I'm against the 5G thing, and don't look at me. This isn't even my phone, and it's nowhere near 5G, okay? My flip phone's even older. So I'm not to blame for it. I'm not the one demanding the bandwidth. And frankly, what it's going to do to the ability for long-range weather forecasts for things like hurricanes, et cetera, ought to frighten everybody that's, has anybody or knows anybody or is worried about people endangered by wild weather. And the reason that these get put in with little to no citizen input is because back when Bill Clinton was president, there was a law passed that took away most of the local authority for saying anything. And you'd have to go back and look then at how and why that got passed. But that's where it came from. That's how long the problem's been going on. So it's not something new. It got voted on by Congress decades ago. Thank you.
Let me correct that, Mr. Gray, in that Congress did specifically prohibit any comments about health and safety aspects of it. They did not say you could not deal with restricted based on aesthetics or anything of that nature, only for health and safety.
All right, so any questions about the proposed motion I just passed out?
Please give me a slot to talk about this event this weekend.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, right after.
Okay.
any questions about the motion? So yeah, basically we need a 2/3, as I said. It's 9 votes to be able to add it to the agenda, and then we can vote to actually implement it. So if there's no other questions or comments?
It's a community.
What are we implementing? If we get to the vote and put it on the agenda, what are we?
Does the public get to see the motion? Oh, I'm gonna read it
has
out
to be
loud.
read.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just asking for questions first.
Yeah, I'm unclear about, I'm just looking at this and I'm saying I'm not quite clear what we're going to implement should we get to vote.
I'll read it out loud just so everyone's on the same page.
Please.
So this is the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests of the council member and mayor to honor the express intent of Assembly Member Nazarian and the Santa Monica Mountains Conservatory Board, and to work with the Assembly Member, the Conservancy, and the River Project to identify a mechanism to fund the River Project, to lead and implement the Studio City Greenway Reactivation Project in partnership with City Department of Recreation and Parks, LOXA, the SCNC, and local community groups, SCRA, SC Beautification, SLAROS, SC Chamber, SC Bid, and SC Farmers Market. So this is what everyone was talking about before. Nazarian had made a line item for the $150,000. It is going to the city. The council member has taken it over. We're trying to get it back into local control.
And I would ask again, is this not a case where we would want a community impact statement, not a vote?
It's
It seems
It's
to me-
not a council.
No?
So we're not voting yea or nay on the motion.
Not yet.
We're
Yeah,
voting
To get it on
yea
the
or nay to
agenda.
add the motion to the agenda for future consideration.
No, for
No,
no
for
consideration.
tonight.
Other comments?
Yes, yeah. Well, hang on, I think, am I recognized?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll give a general public comment. My name is Eric Previn. I understand I'm supportive of getting the money, but I'm just curious why so fast? I mean, and perhaps you can get 9 votes or maybe not, but I feel like stakeholders who are not here might share the views, and I just am a stickler for putting things on an agenda personally, because I think then everybody is aware, and if we imagine what would happen if we didn't vote tonight but put it on an agenda, wouldn't the outcome be just in a few weeks we can go forward with the full clean and nobody can say, oh, it was pushed through, it was not, because someone may disagree, I doubt it, because this is
No, that's fair.
unreasonably. Oh, sure, go for it.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we had as you saw, there's 2 components to this. It's distributed in 2 grants, one directly to us from the Conservancy, that's the component piece, and the other is supposed to go through the city. The one directly to us is already, the contract's in hand, so it's been a number of months. If you see on the summary, this project was intended to begin in the warm months, when you remove invasive vegetation for your lawn. If anybody's thinking of getting a turf-free bait, summer's the time to do it, guys. You remove the vegetation during the warm months, and then you give it some time before the planting season in the fall, when it's cool, so that you can get all the weeds out, any regrowth sprouts, build a healthy soil, and plant when the cool season comes. We're ready to begin now. I have staff assigned to this project. I don't know if any of you run small businesses, but you base your budget on a year and you have your people assigned to things based on what's happening, waiting to begin.
Which area are you planting?
We're taking the invasive species out that have overgrown the area between Laurel Canyon and Witsit. They're watering things, thinking that'll make it better. It's helping the invasives, it's crowding out and killing the natives. We're trying to reestablish what was originally designed to be planted there so that it doesn't require irrigation. You build healthy soil for carbon sequestration, for native habitat, biodiversity, and you don't need potable drinking water to irrigate it after the first couple of years. Our office is right there. We're ready to begin. So if we wait and we wait and we wait, we'll have to wait another year to do the first phase of this.
Yeah, if I can answer this.
Now, and
Yeah,
that's
if I
what
can
the
answer this
urgency is.
too. I mean, like we see a lot of things that are wrestled out of local control. And when we have an opportunity to take them back, you know, if we don't act on those things, I mean, you know more than anybody with government affairs, it's like the people can get in there, and because we only meet once a month, when it doesn't line up with a city council meeting schedule, when it doesn't line up with certain things, you kind of miss the boat there. Now,
I missed what is the target date? Is there something happening immediately?
there's no target date, but there's just,
Because
well, it's seasonal.
I'm
We're talking about a seasonal.
Yeah, tonight would be great, but I understand. I just don't know anything about it. But it sounds
And
like-
my question along with that, to be fair, is, I'm not saying no, what I'm saying is I want the most effective way to make the city stand up and go, you know, to make the city want to give us those funds back. It seems to me, just reading through the material, this is going to be not an easy fight. Like, they're not just gonna go, okay, we were wrong, you were right.
Right.
And so I wanna do it in the most effective way, as opposed to, you know, say a way just to put our voice out there and let it be known. Like, I'd rather have like a plan, like if we can have a plan of how we can make the biggest impact with Krikorian's office and the mayor's office and say, you done us wrong, you know, for lack of a better.
No, that's fair.
So, do we know where this money is being spent by the city? Because
Yeah, it's going to-
$150,000 for landscaping versus $150,000 to possibly help the homeless. Do we know what the intention is from the councilman's office?
What I can
for
tell you is
$150,000?
the only thing he's been clear with me on is they're investing in a new irrigation system, which is frankly the last thing we need, and it's very expensive, and it will continue to be expensive and not helpful for the project.
But we're not sure on that.
They don't have any sort of scope, they just want the money in their control. They don't even have a plan or a scope. So, we have a plan, we have a scope, we want to move forward.
I gotta recognize Richard Adams.
Okay, sending a letter to the councilman is the best way to do this, because as it was reported, assuming we were being told the truth, there's no reason not to believe them. Carl said the councilman had the money, and I believe AD 46 said that Councilman Krikorian took the money and earmarked it wherever. We can all guess where it was earmarked to and why, because that's the way LA works. And frankly, Mr. Previn, I think I can understand where he's coming from, but the money's been moved, and now it's moving around in the city, and the sooner we say, hey, no, give it back, this is what it is earmarked for, is our state tax money. It was given to the city of LA to do a specific line item, and now you're doing whatever with it? No, that doesn't work. Penalty flag, 15
Yeah, and again,
yards.
this is a little bit premature because
And that's why this needs to happen tonight,
well, hold
not
on.
next month.
Because what we're actually debating is altering the agenda. So like you know, someone can vote to put it on the agenda and vote it no, certainly. You know,
That's why I'm saying you ought to put, you need to put this
So
on the agenda.
I think this is worthy of debate, but I at least don't want to have the debate and then not have it on the agenda. You know, because when it is on the agenda, we should have this debate, whenever it is, whether it's tonight or next month or whatever. So if there's any other questions about altering the agenda with a 2/3 majority of the vote, I'm happy to field those questions.
Do it.
And with that, I move to a vote. So all in favor of putting this motion on the agenda for tonight? That's 11. So yeah, motion passes, 2/3 majority. It's on the agenda. Now, we move to vote on it, and now we can take debate on the actual issue. Anybody got it?
A second.
Well, I would make a comment. The words of one of our stakeholders and former chair of and now renewed government affairs chair, I think that they resonate, and I think that we should. It's better to place on the agenda to hear from a maximum amount of our stakeholders. I realize how frustrating it is for a delay or for small business, for budgets being made, but I also think it's important that if we're placing this on the agenda on a past 9 o'clock where we've already lost half the room, I think it's, dare I say, a disservice to our stakeholders. So, just my opinion, and I think that it would make sense to get more of our ducks in a row about what is the best. Number one, what is a clearer answer from the city, why they're saying no, where is this money been allocated? It has to be somewhere. And then based on that information, decide what the best way forward is. I think that, to me, it feels rushed. I would echo Mr. Previn's comments.
And I would reiterate that the longer we wait, the more likely it is that when you finally get an answer is, oh, I'm sorry, we already spent that money. They've already diverted it from its lawful purpose, and the council office specializes, as those of you who dealt with the neighborhood council, with this council office for a while, right, Alex? That the council office specializes in not giving straight, definitive answers, but in blowing smoke in large and copious quantities that never seem to end. And it's not so much her budget, but I'm serious. The longer you let the city move that money around, the less likely it is we're ever going to see it. We're still out of pocket from our tax money that's Sacramento. And it's going to be a hard time for Assemblyman Nazarian to get us another grant next year or the year after, what you do with the last one. So this is, I'm all in favor of deliberation, letting people get their voices said. This is one of the time where, make haste with all the due deliberate speed, and time's of the essence on this.
So I'm going to take any more audience public comment on this, and then I'm going to go down the row
I'll just
after
say
that.
I'm here to answer any questions you have specific ones about the process.
I'm going to take questions there, and then I'll go down the row. Yeah.
Just personally, and as a stakeholder, who cares about this valley, I just want to say that this is a tremendous betrayal. And there's no greater betrayal than baiting and switching stakeholders. And what is clear here is that there is a clear line that whatever Nazarian passed along to Krikorian, who passed along to the mayor, the clear line was that it didn't end up where it was intended with state funds. That's the bottom line to it. And I think it's incumbent upon your organization to point that out and be very, very clear to this council member and this assembly member who've been together a long time. The optics are terrible. So, thank you.
This is the first time I've heard of any of this, and it really disturbs me that the city council, or that the neighborhood council hasn't gotten behind these people. This is $150,000 that the city council has maneuvered and gone to wherever they want. Why the neighborhood council didn't jump on this and help our community blows my mind. So the fact that I would hope, as Studio City stakeholders and Studio City Neighborhood Council board members, you would leave this meeting and send a letter, send an email, send a tweet to Krikorian and say, where's our money? This is this lovely lady over there has a letter from Nazarian that this money was earmarked for us. Where is it? The power of the people is so huge, and I've got to see how powerful that is by fighting my airplanes. But it is pretty amazing what you can do with letters, with a group of people just sending letters, sending emails out, 20, 30 at a time. They have to listen. They have to listen. It's an election year, and it's coming down to money. Trust me, you're gonna get his ear. I got Krikorian's ear with the airplanes because I said to him, you got a little donation from Southwest Airlines. Who showed up at the Burbank Airport meeting? Commissioners meeting 2 weeks later, Paul Krikorian. You've got to follow the money and push your representatives.
That's great.
Andrew Silver.
Okay, so you want to
hear from stakeholders. I live in Footbridge Square. That section of the river is my neighborhood, and you need to act now. Now, as far as deliberating further, this is why government gets nothing done. You were elected by the people to make decisions on our behalf, not to take a poll and determine what everybody wants. So there's no need to wait further and take a poll of the community. Take action on it. There's been people that have stated clearly that there's a clear need to do this now. Take action.
So it seems to me the process has already gone through where a project is proposed and funded. So I think just getting the money back makes sense. I was there when they did a ribbon cutting. When Kokorian was there, Wendy Brule was there. It's been nothing but positive for the community. I can't say how anybody's going to say, gee, we don't want to get native plants going. We don't want to have a plan where the space is being used in a good way, and there could be a plan for homelessness, I think, is also part of it, so it's a well thought out plan. I don't see how there could be any negative connotation other than just the fact that the money got lost.
We're going to do Melanie, then Eric, and then we're going to start with Michael and go down the board.
If anybody has any questions about how this went sideways or any particulars about the ins and outs, I'm happy to answer. This was approved by the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Board in December. They specifically approved it on the condition that it was going to the river project, not the City of Los Angeles Department of Recreation and Parks. Their board members have feelings about that. So the approval of these funds was, from their perspective, in December, contingent upon it going to us, which makes it sort of doubly unfortunate that the city is stepping in. We really do want to do a collaborative project. I think you've seen some of the benefits of the collaborative work that we do. We would love for all the committees here to be involved in this. It's not how the city works. It's a very top-down process how they work. They'll hire a big, one of their bench, engineering firm, do the work. They'll tell you what they're doing. They'll take your comments and do what they're going to do anyway. That's not how we work. We want to engage you. We want to do. They don't understand the issues there. You all experience them every day. So your voice and your involvement in this process to us makes all the difference in the world. We're ready to move forward. We would very much appreciate you making a statement. I think you've heard from a lot of, it's unusual to hear as many comments on an issue like this sort of out of nowhere as you did tonight, and people have feelings. I would be grateful if you took action, and I'll answer anything I can to help in the discussion.
Great. Eric?
Well, I mean, I think that there's just a little bit of a disagreement. I think I'm completely supportive of getting the money. It is infuriating if it was earmarked for Studio City and for our river that it has not been immediately put there, and I'm furious at our leadership for not doing that. That said, however, I just want to emphasize that when a board like this takes an action and votes, it's kind of a big deal, even though most of the time it's just not a big deal. And the whole point of the Brown Act, which is something that I'm a little bit familiar with, is it was to avoid secret meetings, and this is certainly not a secret meeting. It was widely advertised. We'd all be here. Here we are. Public comment, everything. But what was not advertised was this nugget. And we heard from our colleague from Uproar LA that this has been around and people know about this, but I didn't know about this. And I take exception with the idea that the neighborhood council was asleep at the helm and didn't take action, because we would have taken action immediately. We are a board previously, and this board continued to be a board that sticks up for the residents. And you are a resident, and I want to stick up for you, but I don't want to give away, our integrity. And is it not integrity to vote late at night? It's a little less cool, frankly, because if it was an issue that was controversial, and there were other people who had different points of view, or maybe the council member wanted to come and see it on an agenda and say, what I'm going to do is buy you the thing you really want, which is more landscape. We're going to do two sides of it. I mean, I don't know, but I know nothing about it, just being honest. And so, as a stakeholder, I feel...
So you're saying that...
Hold on. Point of order. This is Eric's floor.
No.
Andrew, point of order.
Yeah, but I think I want to engage it because it's reasonable. I'm not upset. I don't think that it's okay for them to take the money, but I think that we should dot our i's and cross our t's and check the box and move forward strong. Not, when people do these things, have meetings late at night and put stuff on the agenda, it can be controversial. It doesn't happen here very often. It's very rare that we put something on the agenda last minute. We don't do it. I mean, do we? Correct me if I'm wrong. No, and again.
And I don't want to go back
It's
and
not a
forth.
bad thing. I'm supportive of your idea.
I just want to make sure that I'm not hearing that you're thinking this was an intentional sort of last second slip under, make sure it's late, make sure nobody's here, we're doing something.
Oh, no,
Because this is the
no, but when you use
transition
them.
Because this is the timing of it, with the news that we got,
When did we get the news?
I just got the news like last week.
Yeah, we gotta, guys, we gotta do board comment, we gotta get out of
Me
here.
getting the news from the council office that, you know, you're just not gonna get it, we're taking it over.
Pass or fail, this has to get board
It
comment.
was just recent.
Guys.
Just because this is the transition of the board, because of all those
Yeah.
things, that's why this is something being considered for now.
Melanie, we gotta move on. Michael, if,
Yeah, I have,
Oh.
I actually am in agreement with Eric that I think that we have to consider the best interests of the stakeholders 100%. The reason I voted to allow this added to the agenda is because of the urgency of the money being diverted to something else. And that's you know as well as I do, the city council has a way of moving money fast. And it was the mayor's office specifically, because I was on the homeless committee. I attended the homeless committee meeting where I heard about this for the first time. It is $150,000 and the mayor basically just took it. It would appear, anyway. I don't want to accuse anybody, but
Yeah,
that's, so that is why I agreed to put it on the agenda. I don't know that the motion as written has very much impact on on the situation. If you want to make a statement, a better course of action would be, let's table this, let's call an emergency board meeting and demand Councilman Krikorian come and attend and explain where this money went. $150,000 is a lot of money in community improvement. That's not like a $4,000 you guys appropriated for some benches at a school. This is $150,000 and it went away. I think it's worth having some sort of meeting where our councilman can come to us and explain to us where this money went and why he allowed it to go away when it had a specific purpose mentioned. Or attached to it. So if you want to make a statement, I would do that, and then you'll have ample time to let the public know, because we have to allow 24 hours notice on a special meeting, on an emergency meeting, and you'll make a heck of a statement to the councilman for the area that we should that he should come and explain this situation to us in a way that perhaps we can understand, because we're not all engineers or whatever it was she said. They gave him the explanation.
I'd just like to point out that this board exists to advise the city, and you are in no position to be demanding the councilman do anything. If you request that you send a representative to speak about this, that's going to get you a lot farther.
Thank you.
And you should probably give them at least 72 hours notice.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's move on. Adam?
Okay, really quick, there's nothing that limits us from passing this motion and then taking further action. It's just, I mean, and honestly, the more action we take shows that we feel stronger about it. We can pass another motion next month that's even more impactful, or also pass this and then have a special emergency meeting and pass a very impactful motion. But we should definitely at least hear our voice now, so.
Randall?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be very clear. It is infuriating to see money taken from local community, especially, and it is important to hear from stakeholders. And I don't think it's a coincidence that there were several voices tonight. I just heard about it when I attended a public safety meeting last week, and I do fully support this being addressed immediately. That being said, I do share the view of Eric Previn about adding it last minute, and I agree with Michael that perhaps an emergency meeting to make a larger splash, if you will, and hopefully greater impact, would be the right course of action. Rick?
I apologize for the ignorance of this question, but isn't, in addition to whatever happens with the motion, this something where somebody should be talking to reporters and saying that the city swiped $150,000, and who's doing that?
Okay, we're all assuming that it's being swiped.
I'll be happy to.
A
whole list of them.
I'll just in a second.
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
And I respect Eric, but also I like the motion.
Great.
So I totally back what Randall just said, which basically Eric and Michael said, so I don't want to repeat that. But one thing that I'm just curious, just in terms of, it states here that Studio City Neighborhood Council requests something.
Yes.
Is this project backed by a particular committee, or you guys as a whole board agreed on this project? And
So-
if it was a
Okay.
sustainability committee project, so basically that's my question.
So
to
this
you.
project was allocated by the state. This is not a Studio City neighborhood project, although
Right.
if the river project takes it back over, we would have some oversight on it, as opposed to we as a board.
But you
It's not
also
us.
said that she's part of the sustainability.
She is part of the sustainability committee, but more so than that, this is a project that's going to be done in Studio City by a Studio City resident, by someone who's active in the Studio City community. It's not so much something that is done. It's not something that's done by our board, but I guess just the exception I take is that as a resident and a stakeholder of Studio City myself, I resent the city trying to take funds from the state.
There's
trying
no
to-
question, I think we
yeah.
agree on a lot of things. For me is that what I'm trying to understand, if later down the line, there'll be other motions introduced from the board, but basically by particular people. So I'm trying to understand like who's behind this motion, like who decided to, like, who's behind this motion?
Who wrote it?
Yeah.
Oh, Melanie wrote it, and I presented it to the board.
Okay.
I introduced it.
And the best, okay. I just, all right.
So I just found out about this at the homeless committee meeting the other night, and I was shocked and appalled. I think we need to rally around this as soon as possible and really be able to hold the spotlight and hold them accountable for this. And, you know, I don't know if the money's been allocated already and they're spending it as we speak, but I think we as a board have to do something as soon as possible, even if it's an emergency meeting that we need to call. Absolutely.
So I just want to address your question. We are assuming it was swiped, but I will say just the language of how the motion is written, it's not a very aggressive. All we're simply asking for in the motion itself is that just the money is used in the intention that Nazarian intended it to be. That's it. Like in essence, that's what this motion is about. It's not. We're not accusing anybody about it. We're not like. I don't think it's very forceful, although you may disagree, but it's really about just making sure that the original intention for this money is followed through. That's from my point of view.
Stuff comments.
Yeah.
If my understanding is correct, that Adrin determined that this is where this money was going to go, what are his efforts to see that that's followed through? What has Adrin done? Because if he made a decision and that decision hasn't been followed through, I'd like to hear from Adrin or his team as to why aren't they up in arms over the fact that they've made this decision, but it seemed to have fallen on deaf ears. I find that as an issue.
And I don't know if you got the copy of the letter that he sent to the community, making it very clear what the intention of the allocation was for, but I passed around a few copies.
Yeah, I briefly, read through it, but I wonder why he's not up in arms and why he's not making this fight. Like, why are you fighting for this? I mean, I know what you're fighting for, and I'm with you, and I'm on your team, and I'm supportive, but I want to know, he's got a dog in this fight. Where's his fight?
Has anyone asked?
No,
Where's the trend?
we got
That's a rhetorical
we
question.
could literally have a conversation all night, so if we can.
I mean, it's a rhetorical question.
No, I'm not you, I mean like the other, there's other stakeholders.
And I just want to say that my intent here is to bring this to you guys, so, because it's an action that's relevant to you, and I don't feel like this kind of thing should go on in the community without you having the opportunity to act.
Agreed.
But it is a very simple motion, because what's frustrating for me, as someone who's worked with local government for decades, is that here's something, an allocation from the state, here's the intention, here's the publication of the intention, here's all the partnerships, yay, we're doing this thing. And then suddenly, and it's been more than 6 months that I've been asking for, procedural things have to happen, guys. Can we have a meeting with the Conservancy Board who approved it, with Conservancy representative, the board approved it, a rep from the Conservancy, a rep from the council office, and a rep from the Assemblyman's office. We can all work together on what things need to happen.
We gotta keep going on this.
And that's the only,
Jesse?
request.
Yeah,
If we all work together rather than.
We gotta keep going on this. Jesse?
I would generally share the concerns of the vice president and the chair regarding procedure, and I think it's inadvisable in general to make a practice out of, slipping 11th hour motions into our agenda. That said, I have a very difficult time conceiving of any stakeholder opinion that could possibly be construed to mean that they don't want properly allocated money to be utilized in the manner that it was intended. Absent, the ability on my own part to imagine such a comment being made, I'm very much in favor of doing this now.
Great. Yannick?
So I just learned of this issue, but my business mind is telling me that we should confront this issue. We can't assume what's really happening and call emergency meeting, like Michael said. And then we'll understand exactly, what we need to do next after that.
I gotta say, I totally agree with this, but I do want to echo what Mr. Previn said. And I can't conceivably see what a defense for this would be, but if we did get a platform I don't even know what Adrian's deputy was she was here, I believe, when this discussion was happening, and nothing, of course. So, but wouldn't it be more prudent to have that position so we can, because what we want to do is, other stuff like this is going to come through where people are misappropriating our monies. If we had a way of doing this that was more systematic and concrete, where we would invite Adrian's office and Mr. Krikorian, Councilman Krikorian, there are no-shows, then we know, hey, this is where we can go from. And I think it might provide a better platform for any social things we might want to speak up to the media, that we actually gave them an opportunity to come here and speak to make this more fortified. So I'm kind of torn. I want to vote on this tonight, but I want to also be able to preserve the way we do things. So I guess.
And I can't agree with that. I think in some ways, I feel like this is a pebble when we should be answering it with a very loud voice. And that's my problem.
Maybe doing it at the 11th hour, as we're calling it. Maybe it's not the best way to do it. Maybe it is to wait and let's reach out to these guys and say, come on out here, tell us why you did this, and you probably don't want to do that again. So.
Lisa?
Well, I completely agree, and also friendly amendment, if you are going to be voting on this motion, to add council member's name, Krikorian, and the mayor's name, would be prudent for this. Yeah, I'm torn. I mean, $150,000 is a lot, and for us not to know or hear from the councilman's office to know, they should have been invited. Whoever spoke to Caro should have invited him to come and address the board and talk about this. Or someone from the office. I mean, Vanessa was here from Adrin's office, and
That's with a 10-foot pole.
Guys.
yeah, so it would be it would be good to hear from the other side before finding them guilty of something. Like I said before, you know, $150,000 is a lot. If they had a valid explanation as to, is it going to the homeless? Is it going, where is it? We just don't know. So,
Well, it was intended for a very specific purpose, and
for you, but they took it away from the river project to
Right.
what?
So
I mean, we don't
what best,
know.
Best that we understand from what they've been telling other community members and myself is that they'll handle this, thank you, and they will have an engineering firm repair the irrigation, and we don't know what else.
So they want to do what you want to do.
They want to do
with the city. Is that
They
what you're
wanna
saying?
do-
They want to hire.
They want to do what they want to do at the same location without the participation of the local community group and the local nonprofit and the collaborative.
So they
holistic
don't want
approach.
to give the 150 to the river project, meaning you. But
For
they
the
want to do
project.
it through the city, hire their own engineers, and run their own irrigation and repair and landscape.
They want to do their own project
Right.
in their own way at the same site, in their own time.
And exactly where's the site again? Just because I'm always for the forgotten end of Studio City. Thank you.
It's between Laurel Canyon and Witsit. It's the place that was built
But isn't that so pristine already?
No, the one that we built is, the one that we built.
Guys, we really have to keep going.
North
side or south side?
Hang on, just to be clear,
Oh.
what we're talking about is the south side of the river
Okay.
between Laurel Canyon and Witsit. It's where the largest concentration of the unhoused in this community reside.
Right.
The stretch that we built between Laurel Canyon and Radford does
Right,
not
right.
have those problems. They were built at the same time.
Mm.
They're very different outcomes.
So the city wants, or the explanation you got from Caro is that they're going to hire their own irrigation system engineers to do the work that you want to do.
They want to do the work that they want to do on the same site.
We're saying the same thing, but we're like saying
we're
it
not.
differently.
What we're proposing is not what they're going to do. What they're going to do is take the money, probably find some other money, do whatever they want to do on that site. So all they're going to commit to is work on that site that they determine in their own time.
So Richard, hello, I have.
Point of
is that you,
order.
Richard?
Hold on, wait, hold, guys, hold on. I need to get to Richard Niederberg.
Oh, sorry.
And then we gotta go to a vote. Yes.
I just think that this is just a trade-off, everything else, in which the city had, was gonna do a project, and all of a sudden, money from the state can backfill it. So you use the state money, so you can then use your money to do something else. It seems to be what's going on here is a trade-off between politicians. They do it very, very often. You see it, you know, it's just a backfilling project. Now the city doesn't pay for it anymore, state pays for it, the city can then have more discretionary money, do what they want. I don't think it's more complicated than that.
No,
It's not.
it's a lot.
Okay, guys, we gotta move to a vote on this. We spent a lot of time talking about this.
But just for clarification,
Yes.
if we have questions for clarifying something, can we ask? Because I can vote if I'm not sure.
Right at this point, it's like, we just.
At this point,
Yeah,
we can say no.
It's okay? Okay.
Yeah. We have to go to a vote. We could be experts by the end of the night of this. All right, so for this motion, friendly amendment, adding the names to it. Great. All in favor?
Adding the names?
Well, no, of the motion
Just
itself.
all together. Yeah.
Six. All opposed? And then all abstain?
On jury. It's two.
Did you vote?
Yeah. I think it was, what, 6-7?
I think you're not supposed to vote.
You can't vote.
Yeah, you can vote.
You can't vote if it's tied.
Okay,
You can't
well
vote
then-
second.
That's right. That's actually true. Great, so motion is defeated. So,
Just for now.
for now. Yeah, for now, but that's, yeah.
Keep in mind, not voting, I just don't think.
No, I'm not, there's no judgment with the vote, but it's just
We can
that.
fire off emails individually.
No.
Fire away.
I'm not. All right, and so for one last time, I got a public comment with Richard Adams for 7 about the event. Yeah.
Closing comments?
No.
Please don't leave.
We're not leaving.
You are announcing an event.
We have a lottery.
Oh, okay.
There's an event Saturday. He's going to tell you
Hang on a
about it.
second, folks.
Not leaving.
Alrighty, for our sins, Denise was appointed to be in charge of the third annual Totally Awesome Summer Kickoff, an event I named because we're from the Valley, like totally. And she was nominated so that she could turn around to me and make me do all the work,
Well, that's
which is why my hair is even grayer than it was last month. Where we are now, I made a couple calls back in April, and I nailed down In-N-Out hamburger truck. They are showing up to serve food between 12 and 2. We paid for 500 hamburgers or cheeseburgers, potato chips and soda, if I remember correctly. And it'll be basically first come, first served, minus a couple meals for public officials and stuff showing up to, like the fire department, police department, whatever. The day of the event is this Saturday. Most of you have been contacted, and it'd be gracious enough to reply about working. The way it's going to go down is currently, and I was expecting to talk to Barry tonight. Barry will be here at 7 o'clock on the morning on CBS with a CBS truck. He will outload everything we need from that has been staged in the meeting room office there. If you've been in there recently, there was a total of 80 flats of water in there because previously we've had the same event on the same day, more or less, and it's been really warm out there. So I went by Smart and Final, and they had water on sale. $2 for a flat of 24 bottles. If you buy 4 of them, you save $1 each. So instead of $3, it was $2, and you could buy a total of 5 fours. So I shipped 80 flats of water down here, 20 at a time. You're welcome. And if we don't drink them all that day, because the current weather report says it's going to be just like it's been, low 80s, foggy, early morning burn off. Setup start, I will be on the ground at the park at 7 a.m. Ice delivery is coming between 8 and 10. Jumpies are coming around 9 or 10. A lot of it's flexible because everybody's busy that day. The In-N-Out truck will be going just north of the bus stop on Laurel Canyon with the DWP truck in front of it. Does anybody here have contacts with the food truck industry? I'd like to see you get some food trucks down east of the driveway on Moore Park so that people who don't want a burger or get there late for a burger or want something else have options.
How many trucks do you want?
We'll talk offline. Anyway, we've got 4 games, and because of the health issues I had to take care of, I didn't get a chance to get to the bid and the Chamber of Commerce, but my original plan was to get local businesses to staff the booths, advertise their things. We'd give them a little tchotchke throwaway gift for the kids that didn't knock down any clowns or anything, and then they could give prizes that would drive business to their businesses. But I had to get my dad in City of Hope, so there wasn't time for that. Anyway, so we have the booths. Friday, I will be, as Craig Matter pointed out, locking up the porta potties about 3 o'clock. I will then be picking up 4 pop-ups from Beeman Park. Sahad from CD2 is getting me 4 more. I'll go over and picking them up. And then Saturday morning, we'll load out on my truck from the house. 2 pop-ups from the house for the emergency backup, just in case. There will be tents delivered. CD2 provided some of them. We paid for some of them. We have 2 jumpies, the 4 games. The SCNC will be having their cotton candy machine, popcorn machine, snow cone machine. We bought new supplies for everything that needed to be bought. We'll probably use the 2 little generators, which we had refurbed and I gassed up today, to run those at the SCNC booth. We'll use the DWP truck to run the DJ. There'll be a kids table, a big picnic table for everybody to eat in and stay in the shade. We'll have the various booths and stuff. The gentleman from the city is going to be there. LAFD is supposed to show up. LAPD is supposed to show up. We went to Oriental Trading Company and bought a whole bunch of games, things to give away. We got a bunch of coloring books and crayon kits for the kids in the kids tent. Gliders, soap bubbles, paddle balls, just, little water squirters, just good things they were very inexpensive, and they're great to give away because the games are for kids that are 12 and under. And the piece de resistance for the adults in the room here, the kids are playing games. So we decided, why not piñatas? So we went down and got 4 piñatas. We're going to have piñatas at 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, and 2:30. The adults
are gonna whack on the pinatas. And the kids are gonna run in and get the candy and the grain bars and everything else. And because I know this neighborhood, and because I love you all, we have a big bumblebee. We've got something that's either a bear or a pig, I'm not sure which. We have a Godzilla. They told me it was a dinosaur, and I'm like, no, senor. I know a Zilla when I see a Zilla. And because I am a loving giver, guess who the last piñata is?
Trump.
Yep. Your president, Donald J. Trump. So what I'm doing tomorrow is divvying up the candy in the bars. This is early in the morning. I'm washing out the 4 coolers that we're going to use to store the snow cone ice in. I'm sterilizing, not sterilizing, but aseptically washing out all the bins, the big tubs for the bottle ice, which is where the water goes. Decorating the piñata pin and getting the piñatas ready to roll. And then on Saturday morning, I'll be bringing all that stuff, plus a pallet or 2 with some cardboard boxes I'm going to get from behind Big 5 to put the spare ice on. So it's in the shade, and I run from the old Army maxim, better to have and not need than need and not have, which is why you have all the water and why we ordered a boatload of ice, because we'd gone skimpy on the ice. It would have been 110 degrees Saturday. So that's what we got. That's what we're doing. I will be on the ground at the park probably from about 0700 to whenever the last vehicle leaves, because that's the way we do things in the cavalry. Any questions?
Yeah, Niederberg?
We really need the help of all the board members. It's our event, it's not part of the cultural event, it's a Studio City Neighborhood Council event, so it is expected that all of the board members will actually help, whether it's helping with the kids' game, helping give the snow cones, or whatever it has to be, basically. We need you for the entire day, or at least between.
As much as you can.
Set of time to have basically, to get over there, and at the end of the day, bring it back to the office, and then the next couple days after that, we'll get to the office to underneath the sound stages where we keep everything.
Probably the next weekend, just because it's easier to do on a weekend here.
Are you gonna have a call sheet or like a roll? Like, because I mean, everybody I think wants.
I have.
Hey, can we do that offline?
I am juggling
Yeah,
all the
figure that out.
deliveries, all the acceptances. You go here, you do there. Crisis du jour, hair on fire. You know, that lifetime supply of diplomacy intact I have is probably going to get worn down significantly this Saturday.
We don't have to plan the event in front of the public. Do
Okay.
Cannot the board set up an emergency meeting and get our problem taken care of in the right way?
Yeah, I'm going to be talking to people, so I can set up that meeting. I'm going to talk to people and make sure when is the right time to do it. Yeah, well, let's move this.
Okay, but like I said, I think I've hit all the high points. I haven't gone into every gory little detail, but I've done just every time I turn around, there's one more thing to do, but I'm down to the stems and seeds now. And we should be good to go on Saturday.
Great.
Thank you.
You know, but until we have surprises, there's always surprises. Yeah, feel free to Shanghai your neighbors, your older children, relatives, you know, fairly clean homeless people.
For my closing comments, I just want to be brief and just say I want to just thank you all. I think we can do really great stuff together. Thank you. I hate an uncontested election, so I'm glad I was actually able to do that. Yeah, I also want to just thank you for your civic service, just your public service and just being out here and just doing this. I think we're going to do a lot of great things. I thank you to the stakeholders, and let's do some good stuff. With that, I move to adjourn.
I second.